soon as you lose hope, that is it. You have to keep going. You have to keep pushing through. I'm there to blend in. I don't want to stand out as having prior experience. We gain all of this experience within Special Forces. You leave, you then can't tell people what you did or what you used to do and where your skills lie. What's the best way to eat an elephant? Mouthful by mouthful. And it's about layering these things on every day that by the end of it, you can look back and say, fuck, that's worth doing. You have to have an element of understanding and saying, even if I stand here for the next 10 years, throwing thousands of darts at a dartboard that is a fucking mile away, I'm not going to hit anything. What we used to do for sniping, we used to say that analogy quite a lot. The bullet doesn't get a vote. If the bullet doesn't hit it, I can't go, wow, the bullet's wrong. You need to adjust. Parachute failures don't happen that often. The night that I had the malfunction, as soon as I exited, I had a real bad sort of exit. I was into big twist. My parachute's sort of forming or trying to open. It's twisted from here all the way up to the top. My oxygen mask had been ripped off, the communications was ripped out of my ear. The problem I had was the way that I was spinning around on my left, where my sniper rifle was on my left-hand side all the way down. I couldn't reach my yellow handle with my hand. I'm in this force and I can't physically grab it. In reality, it's no longer than 10 seconds. Just have a moment of fucking hell.
Right, big Staz, here he is.
Yes.
In the room. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, mate. Yeah, feeling good. Life's good, busy as always. You know that, mate. We're very good friends personally anyway. But, mate, life's good. Most of my problems, I always say, are fucking their first world problems, mate. You know, life's good. It's hard sometimes, isn't it, to kind of, I'm waffling now, but it's hard, isn't it? But you need, mate, you need that sense of gratitude, don't you? And it's difficult because we get carried away with life. We're busy, we get distracted.
For sure.
Sometimes you just need to step back and just understand and be grateful for your friends, for your family, and for your work, for everything, you know? So life is good, mate. Life is good.
You get caught up in a bubble, don't you, most of the time? And most of the shit that you think is a problem really isn't if you zoom out far enough. But you know that. You know that better than me anyway. Mate, we've got you in today because you've just released your new book, which if anyone watching is here on the table, The Hard Road Will Take You Home. And as if I hadn't had enough of listening to your shit for the last 10 years, I'd spend 15 hours reading the fucking thing. More of your waffle.
Yeah.
But jokes aside, mate, it was actually a really, really good read. I read half of it in an audio book, the other half.
Yeah.
Loads of takeaways, loads of value, humour. I genuinely, like there's things I can apply to my life after reading this. So I'm hoping people pick it up and read it because it will help.
Yeah.
And the Audible version, if anyone listening, is worth looking at because what Staz has done that's really cool is at the end of each chapter, he's brought in a special guest and then spoken about the chapter. It's almost like a mini podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, I keep looking. I'm sort of looking around the microphone at the books. It's still surreal to actually see the physical book. It was delivered the other day, and again, a big up to. It's probably an opportunity as well to say thank you to Matt Allen was the ghostwriter. We spent hours, listening to my stories.
Poor guy.
I know the poor guy. But then also formulating that and making it also sound authentic, like like it is me, because I wanted that. It was a big thing for me. It was trying to get my messages across, but also in my tone and with the humor and everything else. So
I think he's done that.
Yeah. So a massive respect and a thank you to Matt Allen. And then we've got Ed Faulkner at Atlantic Books and Alan and Unwin, and then WF House specifically for the audio piece as well. And the audio piece is different, and it's not, I pinched the idea. It was David Goggins, listening to his, or for anybody that's listened to his audio book, what I really liked about that is at the end of kind of each chapter, David, he didn't narrate his own audio, but he was brought in to then talk about that specific chapter. And I really liked that. That was kind of the bit that I was looking forward to the most after each chapter. So I kind of took that idea and said, well, how can I sort of make that different and my own? And the idea is that it's not every chapter, but some of the chapters I bring in people from my network and my friendship group and invite them in to talk specifically about the chapter. But we inevitably end up going off piece. But I try to just keep it really short, about 20 minutes
That's good.
piece. And we've got everybody from, Nims, Aldo Kane, Foxy, Ollie Ollerton, Chris Billum-Smith, Scott Britt,
Al Barrett in there.
Al Barrett, Steve Clark, the founder, the founding investor of ThruDark. So a mixture of people, adventurers, explorers, ex-special forces, businessmen, fitness people. So it was interesting. So hopefully people can glean a little bit more knowledge and insight from their perspective as well, because there's some real fucking brilliant knowledge bombs on there as well.
I thought it added real good value to it, as opposed to just listening to the audiobook.
Good.
And it's good that it's in your voice. I think that makes all the difference. Maybe not for me, but for the listeners.
My dull northern tone. Yeah.
No, because, we're talking about Greenlight's Matthew McConaughey's book, and because it's in his voice.
That's beautiful.
It's insane. I listened to that guy to go to sleep. He's on the car map.
I think I've listened to it for three times, and he's an amazing storyteller. He's an actor, but still to deliver an audio piece like that is just, it's a thing of beauty.
It is incredible.
Don't expect that.
So people can pre-order it at the moment?
Yes, so it's available at pre-order at the moment. And actually, it's a big thank you as well to everybody that has pre-ordered, because this book, for people that don't know the process, and we can touch on that. So clearly, with my background in the military, specifically in special forces, when you're in the military, we sign the Official Secrets Act. Now, without going into too much detail, when you leave, there are certain things you can and can't do. The majority of it, in its purest, simplest form, is that we cannot give information away that would put the lives of people in jeopardy, i.e. tactics, procedures, standard operating procedures, and technology and all that kind of stuff. So that would give an advantage to the enemy. So what we have to do when you leave is, if you are wanting to write a book, you have to engage with London. There's a specific sort of group within London that deal with disclosure and the security cell. So it's a two-way kind of conversation. You express interest to write a book, and then you have to apply for express prior authorization of writing, EPAW. And that process is difficult. It's hard. Now, I understand it from their point of view. I completely get it. It's not in their interest, the government's interest, to release books. For me, I didn't see this as that type of book. I wanted to be different. The guys have already written fantastic books. Ant Middleton, the real positive books that help people with mindset, and Foxy as well. Ollie, Billy, all the guys, and Jay, they're incredible books and all focused on those kind of specifics. And I've read them, and I've gained value from them as well. Mm-hmm. For me, I wanted to do something slightly different. I wanted to write a book that, yes, leans into my military heritage and the learnings that I've gathered from there and in life as well. But more importantly, specifically, how did I apply that to business? Because, when you leave the military with our kind of skill sets, I'm a demolitions expert, I'm a combat swimmer, diver, I'm a parachutist. I can, all these kind of things which is great on paper and when you're in the special forces, and then you leave into the big wide world in the civilian world, and you're now what? Who needs a sniper? Ty, you're looking for a body. But that's the thing. So the natural transition, the skill set wise for us, is to move into a job like close protection, body. And me and Louis did that, and it's difficult for us to then move into something like business, and to really go hard and go into this with ThruDark in particular. And ThruDark, myself and Louis co-founded the business in 2016, 17. We were talking about the idea. Mm-hmm. And then we put sort of pen and plan to action. So the book is specifically tailored around how you can apply, or how I've applied, and then how they can transfer to you as an individual in terms of moving into a business, not specifically outerwear or clothing, but how you can apply specific elements of that into your daily life, whether that's discipline, but also into a business setting as well. So that process with the disclosure cell is a long process.
How long did that take?
So, mate, it took 16 to 17 months.
So after the book was written?
Yes. Well, no. So initially I sort of reached out and said, look, this is my intention. This is what I want to do. This is what the book is generally going to be sort of focused around.
Yeah.
They then engage back and say, look, that's fine. We have to pass them the manuscript, the finished manuscript. They come back with a redaction table. The redaction table will say, look, you can't say this and change it to that, and don't make note to this. You can't mention this for this reasons. And
did they take a lot out?
Oh, mate. So the redaction table, when it came back, was, it was just red. And, some of it, I completely agree with, and I get. Some of it was, things that were easily changed, whether it's a specific to a piece of equipment that we use. The terminology just needed changing, So some of it was quite simple and easy to switch and change, which we did. So no, to answer your question, no, they didn't remove huge amounts and chunks of things that you're like, I'm absolutely gutted about that aren't in the book. There's some absolute gold that is in that book, in story. So what I've tried to do is for each specific chapter, and we can break that down in a moment. I can see a long list of questions there.
I've got a short novel here myself.
But specifically for me, it was each chapter giving you a life lesson story, something that I've learned in life as a kid or growing up, and then a military story, and then a business story, and then trying to sort of patch those together. And hopefully, this book might not resonate with everybody, or it might resonate but only in certain chapters or certain elements, and that's fine, and I think that's it with most of these things. When I read books or podcasts, it's just picking out the bits of information that are specific and relevant to you as an individual. But that was a huge, long process, 16 months. We're finally here, and thank you to everybody that pre-ordered and have been patient as well, because we initially launched, got excited, sort of jumped the gun slightly with the EPOR process, thinking that it would be quite quick, and it wasn't, unfortunately. So thank you to everybody that held on. So available to pre-order now.
It will be worth the wait.
Yeah.
I've read it.
Yes.
Good waffle in there, mate. Very, very good. And the foreword was funny, actually. The foreword is written by Fox, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And there's a bit in there.
Foxy as well.
There's a bit in there where he's like...
about that, yeah.
No, it was all right. It was a bit I thought it was funny. He was like, I met this guy, Staz, and realised quickly he's a hoofing bloke.
Yeah.
But obviously, civvies may not know what that means. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, so in the military, there's loads of slang terms, especially in the Navy. Some of these terminology, these words and things are steeped in history. Back in the Navy, the Navy is the oldest military organisation, older than the Army. The RAF. It's the oldest one. So they've got their own lingo. You go on board a naval vessel and ship,
and you wouldn't understand them.
No, there are slang words and terminology. There's a whole dictionary out there with naval and Royal Marine slang, and hoofing, for people that are listening, is good. Hoofing is good.
As a civvy, when I first heard you boys say that years ago, I thought it was a bad word, because it comes across a bit like But there's a double meaning to weapon, right? I use weapon as a good thing, and like Lewis uses it as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like someone's a weapon, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I presume they're fit.
Yeah.
Mate, obviously the military, especially the special forces, as you said, there's a lot of secrecy around it.
Not anymore.
All the codes are here. You've kind of answered what inspired you to write this book, but did you come up against any resistance from anyone from the old days?
That's a good question. I think if we look at the special forces and the military, there has to be some degree of secrecy. There has to be. The missions are different to conventional Green Army. It needs that level of attention to be kept secret. For obvious reasons. The safety of the lads. For me, the way that the times are now and the access to information, social media and everything else, and I look at it in two ways, the negatives and the positives. The positives for me outweigh a few of the negatives there. As long as you are cognizant and aware of the negatives at all times and you don't overstep that line. Mm-hmm. And that's what the security cell is there for, to allow you to go, you can't say this, you can say that. You can't say it like this, you have to say it like that. Okay, we get it. Terminology reasons, that's fine. But I did come up with, against resistance. And I came up with resistance, me and Louis both did, when we set up ThruDark in its initial phase. But it's so hard, mate. And somebody once said to me, who's currently still serving, a grey hair guy, but he's an amazing guy. And a little bit more forward thinking, shall we say. Yeah. And he said it's difficult because we gain all of this experience within special forces. You leave... You're in the new big wide world, and you then can't tell people what you did or what you used to do, or what you used to do, and where your skills lie. Most people in jobs would love to snap up an ex-special forces guy because of the experience that they have across team and leadership and all these values that they can bring to a company. And he said, he quoted something like, "It's like being a joiner for 10 or 15 years and being the best joiner in the world. You're the very best. You leave and then you sort of say, I've never worked with wood. I've never been, you're going to say, listen, I'm now looking at jobs that complement what I used to do. And that's where people move into the world of private security, et cetera, et cetera. It makes sense. So yes, we did. And actually it's worth mentioning, there's another story about the book, and the title, The Hard Road Will Take You Home. And I mention it in the book, was an amazing speech that was delivered to me by Colonel Conrad Thorpe, and he was an absolute legend in the Marines, and then he was in the SBS, Special Forces, and he was a super imposing individual. One of those people, he steps foot in a room, he sort of commands respect.
An aura.
He has that aura around him. He's a man mountain, but wiry, fit. Looks strong. You just want to get a tear up with him, basically. This kind of thing. Don't make eye contact for too long. Very intense, but he's walked the walk and everything else, and his reputation precedes him. Now, when I was in Royal Marines training, I was in week 22 or 24, something like that, and we were just breaking up for summer leave period. So I've been 24 weeks, just gearing up to leave, go home for a couple of weeks, summer leave, to then start training back after that. And at the end, we were having a bottom field where they do all the fireman's carries and all the assault courses. They actually set up a sports day sort of thing, for want of a better terminology. Yeah. And all the other troops at different weeks within the training cycle, they all come together, and we did like just a big sports day thing, fireman's carries, car pulls, deadlock, competitive stuff. Yeah. So we got beasted basically by the physical training instructors, and at the end of that, we're all fucking goose. We're all sat down. Right, sit down. We're gonna be addressed before you leave for summer leave. There's somebody that's going to come in and deliver a speech, and it was Colonel Thorpe. Now we're all sat on the grass. There must be, I don't know, close to 300 people sat on the fucking assault course on the grass. We look up atop the grassy knoll on top, and Colonel Thorpe stood there, and he addresses us all, and his voice just booms across the whole fucking the grass. You could hear a fucking pin drop. Everybody's just sort of bright-eyed looking up at this guy. We know who he is, and he delivers this incredible speech, and this is back in 2005, so I'm sort of filling the gaps of my memory here. But it was along the lines of, look, you're all here for the right reasons. You've chosen to be here for a reason. This is arguably the hardest basic infantry course that anybody can do in the world. You're here right now for the right reasons. Keep pushing through. It will be hard. It will be shit, but that's where the fucking beauty lies. In that struggle, in that adversity, and pushing through. And he sort of then alluded to the fact that at some stages, because you're tired and you're feeling vulnerable, you will want to start cutting corners. You'll want to start taking easy options. And that then snowballs, and then that's where you fucking fall off the edge. He rounded it off by saying, do not take the fucking easy option. The hard road will take you home. And my fucking hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I just remembered that quote, and it stuck with me then throughout my whole military career. Whenever you're tired, you're knackered, nobody will know, it's that kind of thing, and I won't do this, or I don't need to do that. I'd be, reminder, the hard road will take you home. Do not take the easy option, and there's beauty in that as well. So that was the kind of premise for the book. And then I met up with Colonel Thorpe. So I'd not seen him, met up with him.
And how long have we not seen him for?
So that was 2005. He was just kind of this, this figure.
20 years.
So then when I think about writing a book, 2 years ago, and kind of what it would look like, and, and everything else, I sort of thought, God, how amazing would it be to title the book, The Hard Road Will Take You Home, because it's something, that sort of mantra that I'd lived with throughout my whole military career. And then I thought, I wonder if I can get in touch with him. And I sort of pushing around. I didn't know how to get in touch with him. And Leo from Who Dares Gyms down here, it was so surreal how it happened. He messaged me randomly and said, you'll never guess who's just walked down the beach to the gym and introduced himself, Colonel Thorpe. And I was like, no way. I said, this is weird. The stars are aligned. It's, fate. I said, would you mind passing me his contact details? So I reached out to him, messaged him, and then I told him that story and how it inspired me, and then to join Special Forces, and it helped me through my military career, and I'm writing a book, and he agreed to meet me, and looking back, he put me on my heels. He sort of said, look, I don't agree with what you're doing in terms of people writing books, being on TV shows, and I understand that, and I get it, and I completely respect his opinion on that. But my viewpoint was that, why did I join the military? Because of books. Why did I join the Special Forces or even know about the Special Forces? Because of books. And that was my kind of counter to that sort of argument or his train of thought. And, it's a difficult one because I do get it. The things that we do, we should take it to the grave. But I think there's so much inspiration and learning that people can transfer and learn from these. I think it's such a shame that this goes to the grave with people. Mm-hmm. All these stories and learnings, as long as it isn't crossing that line and putting people at risk.
There's an audio thing that I listen to sometimes when I run, and it's like, I think you might have recommended it to me. The one with the little chapters of motivational talks.
Yes. The audio bit.
Yeah. And there's a couple of military ones in there. You reminded me of that. It's a shame that some of these talks, these kind of colonels and big dogs do, never actually reach the wide world.
Yeah.
Like just as a snippet with no context, just as motivation. But these books, mate, yours, Ant's, Jay's, I've read all of these. None of these are releasing state secrets.
Yeah.
It's just mindset.
Yeah.
It's positivity.
Yeah.
When you go to the cinema and you sit with Lucas to watch a film or whatever, and that Marine advert comes up, 99.9% need not apply. Well, I remember watching that for the first time going, that looks fucking cool. I'll join the Marines.
That's another reason why I joined the Marines.
The world is changing. You have to promote a market.
Yeah.
It's a type of business, the military.
Yeah.
So if you're right, how do I know about the Special Forces? Through you guys.
Yeah.
Through books, through films.
Yeah.
If no one spoke about it, surely no one would join it. Or unless the people that already was in the military.
Yeah. It was a huge inspiration for me, mate, books. Massive inspiration and reason for joining the military and Special Forces.
Well, ended well with the colonel though, right?
Yeah.
Walked away happy.
Yes, it shook his hand. I would have been honoured and privileged, and I actually approached him with the viewpoint of him doing the foreword. Sorry, Foxy. No, he's not second best. But, because I just thought it would tie that all together quite nicely. And he respectfully declined. But actually he said if it gets EPOR, if it gets the correct sign-off, that he would actually do that for me. But I just felt that following that conversation, I felt uncomfortable going back and approaching him and then sort of saying, look, it has been pushed through now. It's going to press. Can I take you up on your offer? I just didn't feel comfortable. So that's why I sort of lent into Foxy for a forward.
I love it. The hard road will take you home. There's one that I used to use before I heard your one, but now I say that in my head, and that was the longest way round is sometimes the longest way round is the shortest way home.
Yes.
And it's kind of a similar analogy to that. And I always feel like, especially as men, well, I feel like I've some of the things I've done in my life has gone the long way round.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like even if I haven't had
backwards
to,
as well, yeah.
I've put myself in that position.
Yeah.
As we do. I don't know why we do it, but mate, the book discusses your transition from like the military to founding a multi-million-pound business. What's the single most transferable skill from the Special Forces that you think has helped you go from that to ThruDark? Is there one skill in particular you think has been the biggest help?
That's a good question. There isn't one. That's why the book breaks down everything through the chapters. And if I had to pick one thing, I think it is that determination to succeed, that willingness to push through difficult times and adversity. And ThruDark, when it started, our strapline is endeavour through adversity. Mm-hmm. And there's hard times, difficult times. Most businesses fall foul because people lose hope. If you lose hope on selection, when you're, going through all the Marines training, if you lose hope, as soon as you lose hope, that is it. Your head's gone, your mind's gone, you lose your purpose and your passion, and you will literally talk yourself out of anything, and it's the same with business. We have the idea, you have to keep going, you have to keep pushing through, and it's difficult times. You're pushing a huge ball up the fucking hill constantly. It's all headwinds at that stage for me. But myself and Louis, the one thing that we did, well, for me, not speaking for Louis, but speaking for me personally, was that dogged determination to just keep persevering and not give up. And the second reason why businesses fail is also the majority run out of cash. They can't manage cash properly, that cash flow.
I've been there.
It's difficult. Fortunately, we surrounded ourselves by good people. So there's that element mentally, but the other part that I would say is making sure you have the right people around you, the right support network, from investors to the people that you invite to sit round your table on the board meetings. Who sat there? Who is it? What are their credentials? What have they done? And me and Louis have been incredibly fortunate to be surrounded by very intelligent, business savvy individuals that have helped steer the ThruDark ship to success. Those foundations that you lay early stages are so crucial to success. And I remember being sat in at a board, so I'm laughing now, our first board meeting was me and Louis and Steve Clark, the founding investor. And Steve's a really successul businessman. Steve is a local guy. And I remember sitting in there and he brought up this P&L, profit and loss sheet on balancing. I think we're about 2 weeks into the business. We've got 3 products, and I'm kind of sat in there thinking, what the fuck are we doing here? And Steve, he could read it all over my face, and he sort of started laughing. He said, Staz, listen, it's a spreadsheet. I'm going to talk you through everything, and I'm going to teach you everything and why this is so important. And I just laughed, and I said, Steve, mate, I'm not about spreadsheets. I'm about product and brand and getting out. And he laughed again. He said, you will love, and I mean it, love spreadsheets in a few years. You'll see the value in knowing and understanding how important this is. And he's right. We fast forward now to 6 years. We look forward to those board meetings and the P&Ls and everything broken down. The detail is so important. The data, I love it. I love sitting in, what's that doing? How do we move that? How do we change that? EBIT down at the bottom. How do we move that? What about, and it's so infectious, but it's so important as well. So that was really interesting from that perspective, right at the very start, thinking, what are we doing? But you're laying the foundations, and maybe it's a mental thing as well. If you set yourself up as a business, a real legit business, and you have your goal and your visions, you're near, you're next. Who are we now? Where are we heading towards? And what's the goal? Where do we want to be? And then you work back from those moments and go, well, what do we need to do to make that happen? Quite similar then to a military operation. And me and Louis knew that. We knew how to plan meticulously. When it comes to taking down an enemy compound, with multiple kind of enemies and in a really kind of diverse area, with lots of things going on, we then look at, again, back to people. Who have we got in our team? We're force multipliers and special forces. We're all multi-skilled. We're medics. We're demolition snipers. We're door kickers. We're forward air controllers. We can do a lot within a small group. So we punch big for such a small footprint in terms of people. So we might have 20 or 30 operators out on the ground, but the effect that we can have is pretty devastating. So understanding who you've got in your team and how to employ them correctly is super important. And we did that early doors as well. And we'd still do that now to this day. And it's about getting subject matter experts in at the right time when the business can afford it, and with the investment and everything else, and making those key decisions. But for me, so it's multifaceted. There's not one thing, but you layer on all your experience. And that's what's in the book. It's about breaking each element down and then how to apply it and in life as well.
I mean, there's 15 chapters. We'll rattle through some of them. I don't know if we've got 13 hours to go through it all. But, mate, also, another funny story from the book I didn't realise. So Louis like snuck off to China, didn't he, or something? He was at Menego. What was that?
Yeah, so Louis Tinsley, we'll back it up. An amazing guy and somebody that I couldn't have gone on this journey with anybody else, I think, but Louis. We're very similar, but actually quite different in some respects. And Louis,
I can see that in you both.
He's super diligent. I'm a bit fucking creative and go away. That's not to say Louis is not creative, but I'm very people, brand. And Louis is very product operationally focused. Every detail, he's on it. And it works really well. We complement each other really well. You kind of, because when you set up the business, you kind of don't know what you're going to do or who's going to do what.
Who's responsible?
Who's going to be mum and who's going to be dad. You can't both be mum or dad, so you have to get...
Well, you can nowadays. But
you can, yeah. But you have to... but you kind of have to find that flow, if that makes sense, and that swim lane. It's not to say you both don't get out of the pool and look across each other's lanes, but you have to find your swim lanes. And, Louis, when we left... I was still in, and Louis was technically still in, but he was on gardening leave. And he was like, look, we're setting up,
gardening leave in the military.
Yeah.
I get it in business, so you don't nick all the data and go to a different company. Yeah, but why'd you have gardening leave in the military?
Well, he was leaving for different reasons. He was medically discharged, and let's say you have a 6 to 12 month period of leaving. They usually set you up on courses to do different stuff so that you can transition into the big wide world, whether you want to be a plumber, whether you want to set up a business, whatever that is. And he was effectively still in, but not. He was kind of on his transition out of the military. I was still in. We were talking about ThruDark, what it looks like. At the time, I was renting a house in Whitecliffe, and we long-term borrowed a whiteboard from work, a huge whiteboard.
Long-term borrowed. Yeah.
And it was on the wall. And then we went to planning like a military operation, ThruDark, and I'll show you the picture after on my phone, and we've still got that image of that initial whiteboard that we did, and we did a 5-year plan and ThruDark equipment and where that would branch out into in different areas, and it's not too fucking far from where we've actually ended up.
That's incredible.
It's amazing to see. It's really cool. But we then broke it down as a plan and everything else. But Louis, when he was sort of still in but leaving, was transitioning, was like, look, we've got all these ideas for product and what we want to do, and we've thrown ideas down, and we've sort of drawn, well, Louis drew, because he's a far better drawer than me, ideas of concepts for clothing and technical outdoor clothing. And then the next problem that you have is, well, great, where are we going to get it made? And it was like, do you know any factory owners? Do you know any designers? No. We started from nothing. We didn't know anybody. Yeah. So Louis was like, fuck it. I'm going to get my balls in my hand and I'm going to go to China. There's a huge convention on in Guangzhou. And it's, for people that don't know, the scale of this convention, it's like the size of Bournemouth, and it's just floors of different factories and retailers and fabric mills and all these different people. Louis went out to China, probably shouldn't have at the time in terms of who he was working for and still connected with the military, went under the radar, bit of a covert mission into the country under the guise of, being a business owner, being a textiles individual. The next thing, I still remember the calls I was having with him and the messages. He was running around and collecting people's information and factories, looking at fabrics, looking at people that could potentially put our ideas from paper into fruition, into a finished, sampled product, and then with a view to put that into production. And he did that, which was incredible, really. If you think about that, it's incredible. We then came back and we started getting the first samples in, and they were fucking comedy, mate. Really? Comedy. I still remember putting this first sort of down jacket on, and they're kind of off-the-shelf items, and my fucking small arms as well went in straight through, and the sleeves up here, and the zips tight. It just doesn't fit, and I'm like, man, is this a chick's jacket or a kid's jacket? And and then across a few products that we looked at, and we had to laugh, and there's that thing that from the military as well, that gallows dark humor, and there's a lot to be said for that as well. And it's one of the Royal Marines Commandos ethoses is cheerfulness in adversity. There's times when you just have to laugh at a shit situation. But we then just had to look at solutions, we're solutions orientated people from the military, from special forces, problem, solution. We never just think, fuck it, there's nothing we can do here. There's always something you can do. And then after that, we got in touch with a British designer, Jeff Griffin, who's got his own kind of line. He's a well-known British designer, designs for Moncler, Chanel, Fendi, all these kind of big brands, based in Cornwall at Loveland Farm. We kind of reached out to him through Instagram. You're just being proactive, constantly looking and speaking to all these different people. And Louis also went up north as well, worked in a factory up in Leicester, or even further north than that, actually. And he did like a week or 2 weeks in the factory to understand pattern cutting and how materials and jackets all come together to formulate a product.
That's incredible, yeah.
And then I leave, and then we've got momentum. Now we're kind of full steam ahead, and we're all chips in as well. Figuratively, literally, all our savings are in. We've gone all in with Steve, the investor, as well. Yeah, and we've committed to it, and we've gone, okay, we're going to do this. Let's do this properly. Let's do this to the best of our ability. And yeah, I mean, that was a while ago, and it's kind of grown into what it is today.
A lot of what I noticed with you guys that operate at your level is planning. It all comes down to planning, right? You don't seem to wing a lot. Even when you're winging it, that's part of a plan.
Oh, we're all winging it.
No, you know what I mean? But it's in in your head, if you're going into a military operation, you've got a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, you've got a backstop, if that goes wrong, we'll try this. Yeah. So although you're compromising to an element of compromisation, there is still a bit of a plan loosely underneath that compromisation, isn't there?
There is. There's always a direction of travel. And within the military and special forces, we're kind of known, we call it the masters of the cuff. Cuffing something is just making something work just winging it, turning up and going, don't worry, I'll cuff it. I'll just make it work. Because, but actually it's easy to say that as a throwaway comment, but if you scratch the surface like you have there, actually what it's saying is, I'll make any sort of situation work because I will come up with a solution that will be workable. You know, it might not always be gold standard, but it will work.
Do you think, like, you know, in the civilian world, a lot of people don't plan as structured as you guys do. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's down to lack of knowledge, or do you think that's down to us just being lazy? Because obviously you've had it drummed into you for 14 years of being in the military that you need to do X.
Yeah, there's certain sequences. So when we were given a problem...
It sounds so simple when you talk about it.
Yeah,
get a whiteboard up, write it down, put your plan out, have an A, B and C, but people don't seem to do it in normal life. People don't do it.
Well, not everybody. There are obviously people that are very good, you know, that sort of top 1% at the top of their game that do it and see value in that and are diligent with their application of ideas and thoughts. For us, you're exactly right. I was brought up in that world. You know, I've been on command courses, you know, to be a corporal, to be a sergeant, and advanced command courses and all this kind of stuff. And it's all about a problem. And it's like, here's the problem, come back, you've got 2 hours to do an estimate. So estimate what is happening, and here's all your resources that you have. You're reading through everything. Now come up with 3 courses of actions, COAs they're called, COA 1, COA 2, COA 3. And you present that back in 2 hours' time. And it will be a case of, right, here's the problem. What's the mission? What do I need to do? That should be always front of mind at all times. What's the mission? And I still use this to this day. When we're going up into the think tank and there's an issue or a problem, or look, we need to turn stock, or we've got to do this, or we've got to do a sale, or we've got to just do this. And I always, you know, people start talking, they go off tangent. It's my job and position as one of the co-founders and the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, to go, stop. What's the mission? What are we doing? What is the intent? What do we need to do? And everyone's, well, we need to make X amount of revenue. Okay, what do we need to do that? What do we have to enable that? From systems, processes, and stock. Right, give me 3 courses of actions to enable that. What's COA 1? Well, we could do it like this. Okay, what's COA 2? Like this, COA 3. Now it comes down to decision. Okay, there are 3 strong COAs. Which do we all agree with is the strongest course of action? COA 2. Right, forget 1 and 3. Let's plan now with COA 2 in mind. Right, let's go and commit to that and make it happen. So that's kind of military sort of thinking and planning and yeah.
I'm glad you said that bit at the end, that when you pick one, then you go with it.
You decide and you go.
And the reason why is I actually, funnily enough, come across a TikTok last night of Arnie, the bodybuilder, talking. Yeah. And Jay Shetty was asking him, you know, did you have a plan B when you were bodybuilding? And he was like, I don't subscribe to plan Bs. And he was like, what do you mean? He goes, because if I have a plan B, I'm subconsciously in my mind telling me that my plan A is not going to work.
Exactly.
So I'm being a naysayer to myself.
There's a lot of strength in that and a lot of power. We don't have a plan B, but what we do have along a COA is once we commit to the COA, we then look in more detail. We'll strip it right back in terms of, and then we'll go, right, what is 2 easy ways of doing this is one way is to say, what is the most dangerous course of action? Once we're boots on the ground in a military context, we've committed to the mission, everybody knows their roles and responsibilities, this is how we're going to go in and take down, you know, this compound and this objective.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy. What is, from the intelligence picture and what we all believe with our experience, what is the most dangerous course of action? What's the most dangerous thing that could happen? Well, we go on target, we have multiple casualties, there's IEDs that go off, we then have to switch and change the mission to look after the people and extract from there. How do we do that? Have we got the things in place? Do we have all the medic cover? Do we have all the helicopters in? Can we make that happen? Yes, we can. That's the shit sandwich, the shit hits the fan, and that's the worst course, most dangerous course of action. Mm-hmm. That's probably a 5% chance. What's the most likely course of action? The most likely course of action is we land on target and we do what we do best. And we strip them straight through and it's mission success and this is what it looks like. Okay, let's plan for that and then go and activate and execute on that plan.
There's an element of, do you believe that there's an element of visualization with that?
Absolutely, mate. I've been... Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's not waffle, it's not fucking... it's
like
not
kind of manifesting. It's like I had Ollie a couple of weeks ago and he's a big strong believer of that. He says everything that he's visualized in his life keeps happening. I even joke saying to him, you better stop thinking about some shit then, because if everything you think about seems to happen.
But it's true, because, and that works both ways. It works for the most, if I run out the back of the helicopter worried and thinking, they've mentioned most dangerous course of action, I could run in and get shot, or he could get shot, or we can all get blown up. And we've seen that stuff like that does happen. But because you've talked about it and understood what you're going to do, it doesn't worry you so much. You should be then parking that thought process. Whereas visualization is huge. And you can, I mention it in the book about, I didn't realize I was doing it from such a young age, from football. But I would always think positively. My visualization would always be positive outcome. And that was the same with training. And then when I went on to Special Forces selection, constantly, it's the worst and the hardest, most taxing thing I've ever done, physically, selection, because you're pushed to your limits, you're asked to do things that are just they're crazy now. Looking back on reflection, I wonder my back shot and my knees are fucked. The things that you're asked to do and the ground that you're asked to cover and the way that you're asked to do it and how they layer all these sort of tasks on and sleep and all this kind of stuff. It's that visualization for me was always about, I'm fucked right now, but what would a Special Forces operator look like? How would they conduct themselves if they were me? Or even better, I'm now a Special Forces operator. I want to be a Special Forces operator. What would I do? How would I want to be perceived? How would I overtly project myself onto other people? I wouldn't be fucking feeling sorry for myself. I wouldn't be fucking chin strapped, sat on my Bergen, crying, fucking looking broken. I'd hold myself in a certain way. I'd have some pride. I'd fucking park my sort of short-term pain and understand that there's long-term gain to be had further down the line. And there's a lot to be said about that in life as well, moving around and you're tired, you're stressed. And what does somebody look like that's successful? You don't see them running. It's like the fucking pilot analogy, isn't it? A pilot doesn't run up and down the fucking, gangway when people are sat down panicking and flapping, and that transfers to business. So when things aren't going well in business, which they inevitably do at some times, you'll have things that just, a pandemic, for example, things that you haven't put on the fucking whiteboard, that you haven't prepared for, because who fucking did? But it's how you act in those moments of uncertainty, and everybody will shift and look at you. Me and Louis, the co-founders, are they worried? Are they flapping? What's going on in their brains? And you have to say, what does a successful leader look like right now?
It reminds me of a passage out of James Clear's book. He says something about that, doesn't it? Like, if you don't say I'm not drinking, you say I'm a non-drinker. Like, you make yourself believe it by saying it. And my team a lot of the time refer to me as a swan. I think because I try and stay really like elegant and but underneath my legs are like,
feet are flapping.
But to the public, you won't notice that.
Yeah, but that's so important. It's critical and crucial, because the moment you let that go, you lose that element of respect from everybody else, and it's difficult.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
It's so hard because we're all human. It's difficult.
I'm going to delve into some of the chapters, Staz.
Yep.
So chapter 1 was called Into the Dark, and you shared your experience of leaps of faith. Literally having thrown myself from a plane on a number of night operations, and figuratively when starting ThruDark. Now, there's a story you tell in there about your parachute failure. It sounds like the most scariest thing in the world for me. But I'm scared of heights. I don't really like flying. Jumping out of a plane fears me anyway. I've got one planned, hopefully coming up on the 29th of this month. And after reading that, I'm like, fuck this, I'm cancelling the parachute jump. Now, you've jumped from a plane with a parachute, and your parachute hasn't worked, and you've managed to stay so calm. Where does that come from? Does that come from repetition? Where does it come from? Like, obviously, you can tell the story if you want, like briefly, the parachute story.
Yeah, it's everything that we've just spoken about. So we've just spoke about
the courses
of action and what we're going to do, how we're going to set ourselves up for success. So I set myself up for success with all my kit, equipment. It's checked, double checked, triple checked, checked by other people, and then checked by the parachute jumping instructors. So I know my kit and equipment is checked to the highest standard. So I know that I can put confidence in the kit and equipment. What's the most likely course of action from jumping out of an aeroplane at night, full mission profile, on oxygen at 18,000 feet? That it's a success. 97% or even higher, probably 99% of every jump that I've done previously has been a success, and I've had no issues. But we have and do think about the most dangerous course of action. Mm-hmm. Parachute failures don't happen that often, but when they do, we are trained to deal with that. Yeah. So we speak about that. And in the parachute briefing that we have before everything that you do in the military, you know, in a training and in an operational role, everything is spoken about, from diving to parachute jumping. This is what we're going to do. This is the formation. This is where you are in the stack. You're number 7 of 14 people. This is how we're going to stand up. This is how we're going to put the oxygen. This is how we do everything. You then approach, you green, you get the tap, you jump, you exit in this position. You know, you get stable, the parachute forms over 8 seconds, you do your checks to make sure you can steer it left, steer it right, make sure you can brake it, you get on track with everybody else, and then you're into the kind of the actual jump. And remembering as well in the context of that's just getting to target. You know, that's the beginning of the mission, you know. So that's your taxi ride into town before you start boozing. So
what an analogy.
So we do all these checks and everything else. Now, the night that I had the malfunction, everything was fine, same as every other jump that I'd done before. It was a full mission profile jump, so I had all my operational kit on that it wasn't an operational jump, it was training for an operational jump. So all of my kit, my sniper rifle, you know, all the night vision, everything was on, helmets, ballistic plates, weapons, radios, kit, equip everything that I would take on an operation with me. So we're at 18,000, we're on oxygen, jump out at night.
Are you on oxygen because it's 18,000?
Because of the height.
My one's 15,000. Is that the highest you can do as a civvy?
Yeah, you'll be all right. Yeah, you're okay at that stage. And also, we were doing high altitude, high opening, so our parachutes were opening up high.
Got you.
That allows you to get in, to drive further. Anyway, I do everything the same, step up to the ramp, and it's like jumping into black soup. It's nighttime. You can't really see where you're going, so you don't really get that. You know you're high. You know you're exiting a perfectly functional aircraft, what you're doing. But there's also an element of, well, he's doing it in front of me, so I can't. Are you happy to jump as? Yeah. Oh fuck. So you sort of shuffle along to the edge, and off you jump. You know, and you commit to that jump, and then all you're doing at that stage, you're not thinking about anything other than going through the drills that you've been taught.
The process. The
processes. The boom, hold, the position, the wind. The parachute will start forming. It takes 8 seconds, but at that stage, mine wasn't, and it was. I was, as soon as I exited, I had a real bad sort of exit. I was into big twist. My parachute's sort of forming or trying to open. But the risers, the things that are connected to your parachute, the lines that connect you to the chute above that allow you to steer and brake, they were twisted. And it was low twists. So low twists it's twisted from here all the way up to the top, which is bad. But there's processes that you go through to get out of that. So all I did was try to look up. My oxygen mask had been ripped off, and and everything else, because it was quite a violent exit. My communications was ripped out of my ear, so I couldn't tell everybody. But they could see me because we had like sort of things that indicate where people are, lighting systems, because it's a training jump, and they could just see me dropping like a stone. And as I'm looking up, I reach up to the risers, and you pull them apart. I think I mentioned in the book, you feel like a frog, because you imagine a frog stretched out and its little legs dangling. That's what it's like. And then you start kicking your legs in the opposite direction of the twist to try and then start the spin to open up, sort of get rid of the twist, and then you're back into a normal kind of riser position, and your parachute would open. That's generally the idea. That didn't happen for me. So when I was going through that process and kicking, I can sort of see I've got a bag of washing above my head, which isn't great, but it's kind of forming. It's sort of opening, and then as it starts forming, one of the sides opens and then it collapses. So now I've got these twists, and I've also got a collapsed chute on the side. That then puts me into a really violent G-force spin. It's like you've been at a fairground ride before, and you feel that power of the G-force. Is it centrifugal force, isn't it? When you're being pushed out, and it's just getting bigger and going faster and faster and faster, and I'm thinking, this ain't fucking good. So now I've ditched that. That's not going to work anymore. I now know and understand that I have to cut away from this chute. It's no longer of use to me. And I have a backup. I've got a reserve. So the process is 2 handles. One's yellow, one's red. The yellow cuts your chute away. The red will then deploy your reserve chute. The problem I had was the way that I was spinning around on my left, where my sniper rifle was on my left-hand side all the way down. I couldn't reach my yellow handle with my hand. It was literally there at my face. And I had this moment of, fuck, I'm in this force and I can't physically grab it. But I knew the system has a backup. If the correct way to do it is punch, pull that away. So you locate both handles, you push that away. That cuts that chute away from you. You then into some form of free fall. You get clear of the chute, you pull the red, and then the reserve comes out. I couldn't do that, but I knew worst case scenario, the way that the parachute is set up and the way that it's rigged, very clever, is if I can't pull that and I just pull my red, it will cut away before opening my reserve.
That's good.
You do run a risk, there is a slight risk that you open, pull, and your reserve will form into the bag of shit above you. And that's worst case scenario. But it shouldn't do that. So I had to go through that process in my mind, which is only, and this is a process that's going on, but in reality, it's no longer than 10 seconds. So I'm going through all this kind of stage thought process in my mind, this, not saying, sort of laughing at myself, my situation as well, and going, don't fucking flap. Just go through the process. You know what to do. Have confidence. But there's that moment where you go, I put my hand on, I had a quick couple of seconds of going, fuck, and then boom, punch it, push it away, and then, I'm sort of free falling, and then you're just, you're not hoping because hope's not a plan, but you know that, it should form above you, and it did. And the irony is, the reserve parachute comes out, and I've now got a navigation system on my front to sort of steer me back in the direction of travel. I'm about 600 meters short of where the other lads have landed, and I come down. I've probably had one of the best landings I've ever had under a parachute before. I sort of come in, it's all silent, it's a beautiful night, it's silent, and we're coming in and I just sort of tiptoes on, pull the chute and just have a moment of fucking hell. And you've seen that handle, and I didn't know at the time, I still had the red handle in my hand. I was just gripping it, and I sort of landed on and was like, shit, I'm still holding the sacred handle, and it's framed in the office.
I saw it, I saw it yesterday. Is that not, would you normally let that go then? It would just go onto the ground, that handle?
I dare say that's not in your thought process, is it? You're not really thinking, I better keep hold of this, because you don't have to.
Is there a second in amongst all of that 10 seconds where you think this is it? Does that doubt creep in a bit?
Of course it does. Have you ever had an accident or done something and your brain it throws about fucking 300 different thoughts at you in 1 second. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? When you have an accident, something happens that's serious. You have those accidents, but then you have a serious accident when you go, and you stand up and you go, shit, like I've really hurt myself. I've fucking hurt myself. Kind of don't want to look. It's like that. It's that moment of, over a second period, you get, fuck, I'm going to die. This is terrible. And then no, it's all gone.
I feel like sometimes it goes slow-mo as well in those situations.
Yeah, it does, mate.
Much more than usual.
Yeah.
Mate, like this kind of like risk-taking with your life and this leap of faith that you talk about in the book, and kind of you're like obviously some adrenaline junkie, and some of us are, we like speed and we like things. When does that go from being admirable and brave to kind of silly and selfish? Maybe when you have kids? I'm just thinking as a guy, we'd always like to live a little bit on the edge. But at what point in your life do you sort of think, right, there's other people I need to think about now?
I think that's different for everybody, and it's an individual choice. Probably some of the things you've mentioned there are certain elements, kids, missus, people that depend on you. But the Special Forces for me was the best job in the world, for me personally. It was incredible. I met some of the best fucking people, made the best bonds, the training, the operations. When I joined, it was intense. It was everything I'd hoped for and more. It was my best job, and...
Do you miss it, Staz?
I miss elements of it. But for me, I left on my terms, so I kind of closed the book and wanted to move on. The wind, when I was leaving, the wind was slightly out of my sails, but for the right reasons, I then chose to leave. But going back to that point that you raised there, it's the most selfish job in the world as well. When I look back at it now, I was so selfish during that time, in the Special Forces. It was all about me, and it wrecked my first marriage, not just that as well, because, the marriage was breaking down anyway, but there are definitely things that I did when I was serving that I wouldn't do now. I say that, but I don't think I would. I wouldn't take those risks of running into rooms or doing certain things that I was quite, blood drunk with it and quite flippant with some of my decision-making processes.
Do you think any of that's to do with age?
Yeah.
As we get a bit older, we seem to calm down a bit, don't we?
Yeah, you start to understand things a little bit more, and again, kids and wife and things.
You've got to be. So there's two. My thoughts go like this on that. That's selfishness. In the job you were doing, you have to be selfish.
Absolutely,
you have to stay fucking alive.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can't do that by thinking of everyone else or your team, but as in like the ancillary people.
And you don't want that person in your team. You don't want them, and some people do leave because of that. They get to the point where they can become a little bit older and start thinking, shit, I'm now putting the guys at risk because I'm thinking differently.
Too panicky, yeah.
I'm thinking differently. And that's not what you want when you're committing to a course of action and a plan and a mission to run in and do something. To have that element of doubt is dangerous to yourself and to everybody else. And it's not fair.
You're either completing a mission or you're dead.
Yeah,
exactly. There are two options. But I think that also applies to business, right?
Yeah.
As in, we talked about this before, like you can't have the lifestyle that most people want without the sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's directly transferable, whether it's military or not.
Absolutely.
You've got to grind. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to be at home a lot. Like you look at any super successful businessman or business person, I should say, there's a lot around us. They've got this unbelievable career, but they've had no relationship with their kids.
Yeah.
Or they've got this, they've got loads of money, but they haven't got X. Everything comes at a cost.
Price. Yeah. Everything's a cost. You have to pay a price. It's just what are you willing to pay? And the leap of faith for me in particular was leaving and then taking that leap of faith, into business, but understanding that exactly everything that you've just mentioned and touched on there. You have to take a leap of faith, but there is costs associated to that. But there's costs associated to everything in life. If you don't, if you want to spend more time at home with your missus and kids, what's that cost then to your mental health in terms of not pushing yourselves? And it's like, what's that quote about most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the songs still in them? And that was I didn't want that to happen. That's powerful. And I think about that is, yes, I could spend every waking minute at home with missus and kids, but I wouldn't have that drive, determination and passion. It would knock the essence of who I am out of me.
Mm. Chapter 2, redefine your disasters. This one I liked. This one I've kind of read in other contexts as well with people. It's like, my overview was it as looking back at the things that have happened in your life that you felt were negative at the time and reframing them to be positive, right?
Yeah.
You're a super positive dude, mate. I've spent loads of time with you. That kind of resilience piece for you, do you think that comes from all those disasters you had to face and live with?
Yeah.
Do you think it can, what I'm trying to get at is like, obviously for you, football dreams were shattered by a motocross bike crash. You had to pick yourself up from that. You got the whole thing with parents splitting, moving away, losing mum, struggles with stepdad, being bullied. All of these things have obviously toughened you up. Can that be taught later in life, that toughened up resilience, if you haven't had that hardship?
No, I think they're calluses, aren't they? And you have to go through that. You have to go through the fire and the difficult times to really come out of the other end. And all of these things at the time seem insurmountable, depending on the severity. Like losing my mum was incredibly difficult. No kid should have to go through that, And at the time, when you're in it, it's shit, But if you use this in the right way and use it to drive and fuel that kind of that determination, which I did, I was like, I kind of left a chip on my shoulder and I kind of, I've been dealt a shit hand here. Well, what can I do? I can sit and be sorry. I feel sorry for myself. And some people do, and that's difficult. I don't know where that line is and what makes people different. Some people become a victim and some people use it as fuel, and I don't know what the difference is between, people's psychology and where that is. But certainly for me, all these knockbacks and hardships just built a layer upon layer upon layer of armor for me personally. And that's what I was trying to say in this chapter in terms of redefine disasters. And a lot of the times it's how we frame things, in your mind. And don't get me wrong. There's times where still now I will, and not having that perspective sometimes, I have to bring myself back to fucking earth. And sometimes little things can annoy me and I'll be like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm pulling myself into this weird thought process and right, back up. This has happened. Okay, what can I learn from it? What's the fucking learning or the gold to be taken from this shit situation?
You've got kids, right? You're a parent now. And I always have this conversation with my dad. He went through some extreme hardship growing up in Turkey and then kind of moving to England, so I kind of a better life.
Yeah.
And I'm growing up fucking in a bubble compared to him. Yeah. And your kids are probably growing up in a bubble compared to what you've been through. Yeah, some of it through choice, through your career choices, but some of it just through the hand you were dealt. As a parent, do you think a lot of parents don't do that, he won't like that, she won't like that? Do you think there's got to be an element of tough love? Do you think there's got an element of like, push them over, let them graze their knee?
Yeah, yeah. And it's... do
you know what I mean?
I don't like helicopter parenting. It really winds me up when I see people do it, you know, and this kind of overprotective, oh, don't do this, and you're going to do that. And now, don't get me wrong, there's a line. And I think, was it who speaks about it? Maybe Steve Peters. Anyway, I've heard it before, and I was like, that's so true. When what you have to do, or what I try to do with my kids, is let them go to that point. A great example is climbing a tree. So you let your kid, I've got 3 boys. What do they want to do? Climb trees. Anyway, they climb the tree, and I'll say, go climb the tree. Fucking brilliant. Dad's giving me the green light. And they'll climb the tree. And they'll get to a point where you go, okay, if he falls from that height, he'll hurt himself, but it'll be a good lesson. Because you'll say to them, be careful, but climb the tree. Mm-hmm. If they fall from that height and hurt themselves, they get that feedback of going, fucking hurt. Okay, I'll be a little bit more cautious. I can't just run up a tree like I'm fucking Spider-Man or King Kong. Yeah, Tarzan. But they have to do that. They have to learn that process. Then they go to another level and you go, oof, fuck, if they fall from that height, they're really going to hurt themselves. That's a trip to hospital. And it's kind of like, now my responsibility if a father steps in and says, I can't allow that to happen. Look, come back down to this area here, you're too high. If you fall from there, you're really going to hurt yourself. And you have to tell them that. So they understand and go, oh, he's not stopping me from doing this. And it's not like he wants to be overprotective. He's just giving me the information and saying, okay, listen, if you fall from there, you'll break your arm or your leg or you'll be seriously injured. That's a hospital, ambulance job to go and see a doctor. Do you want to do that? No, I don't, Dad. Okay, let's come down. You know, so it's very difficult. Because we remember when I was kids, I was out all the fucking time falling out of trees and then trying to hide it or mask it when you go home with a big fucking cut on your head or, you know, an arm that's fucking, that's banged up. So it's difficult.
I feel like you've got to make the connection yourself as well as a child. So like you go in, climb up the tree, but just be aware if you fall, you're going to hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. But your brain needs to have that cognitive connection that you need to go up the tree, fall, hurt yourself, so that you, when you look at a tree next time, you know your limits.
It's so basic, mate. It
is, isn't it?
Now, you put the dinner in front of them and you go, it's hot, blow it. And they go, you know, and it fucking burns their mouth. And you go, I told you. And you know it's not going to, it's just going to hurt. They might burn the top of their mouths, but you go, you give them the look and they go, oh, I get it. I get it. It's like touching fire. Don't touch the fire.
Yeah.
Fuck, and it's, so you have to do that. You have to have that feeling coming back in so that they can work things out. So it's a really long way of saying, you have to allow them to go out and fail. And it's all about failing in different areas and, you know, through life to learn so that you can understand where your boundaries and where you can push yourself.
I remember watching, I think it was a snippet from a podcast on TikTok, and the guy was saying, like, if you wanted to grow a person that had to be X, you know, had to be, say, mentally strong, you would need to give them an opportunity to be mentally strong. Mm-hmm. If you had to make them physically strong, you'd give them an opportunity to be physically strong. That's the only way they're going to learn. Yeah. I always think about this because I always think, like, every parent wants their children to live a little bit better than they did. Yeah. But are we damaging them sometimes by you know, there's that quote where it says, can't remember what it is, it's something along the lines of, tough times create strong men. Yeah, strong men create good times create weak men create tough times. And it's cyclical.
It is, mate. Yeah, I think we go through that. I think from naturally like you go through that.
Kid to kid to kid, then it goes
back. There's some amazing examples, and I worry about this. Like, well, it's too... But also caveated with, there's a difference between love and affection and raising your kids, the way that I would like to be raised, with love. I didn't get much of that. My grandparents did an amazing job with me and my brother raising us, but they're a different generation, probably from those hard time generation. Yeah. So I didn't get the hugs or the I love yous or the, that kind of, that positive love and affirmation. But I try and do that now with my kids, probably too much. I tell them that I'm proud of them and that I love them and they can be anything they want to be. And all the time, trying to make it a bit fun, but serious. And like, I've got something to tell you, and they come in and, I love you, all this kind of stuff that I think is important. Make them feel loved, make them feel like you're giving them everything to set them up for success moving through life. But it's a difficult balance, because sometimes you're like, are we spoiling them? Are we being too kind, too nice? They need some hardship. And it's so difficult, mate, to try and get that balance right. But a lot of people, or some people, will think that doing that is going to have a negative, detrimental effect on them. I don't think it will, because there's examples of boxing, for example. Look at Chris Eubank, and Mike Tyson, all these people that have boxing is one of the hardest sports and careers that you can do, and I don't think there's any parent. And Ricky Hatton, have you seen the documentary? Both these boys are boxers now, and if you ask Ricky Hatton, do you want your boy to be a boxer? He'll go, no, absolutely not. Yeah, it's one of the hardest things.
Categorically, no.
But they might want to do it anyway, and you'll have to support that. And it's difficult then, isn't it? But you could set them up and you could have an amazing career. Like Ricky Hatton's got millions of pounds in the bank. Their kids don't have to work. So why do their kids want to do it? And it's probably twofold. One, they want to follow their dad's footsteps and make them proud. So you have that element, but it's a difficult one, isn't it? But what I'm trying to say as well is that it doesn't necessarily make the kid weak or soft, or not make them want to be the best version of themselves.
No, I get you completely. It's interesting. It's all to come for me, that kid thing, mate. I'm not there yet. There was a section called Darts at a Dartboard.
Yeah.
It's a really good analogy, this one. Because my old man used to say something similar, but his was like along the lines of it's in Turkish, but it loosely translates to keep throwing shit at a wall, son, and eventually something will stick. Something will stick. And obviously that's the English version of it.
Yeah.
In this chapter, you talk about like your approach to generating ideas, especially within business. And I think the Special Forces, there's one point you made where you said nothing is judged and nobody is rinsed if they're horribly wide off the mark on something.
Yeah.
Very refreshing, that is. A culture of like openness. We try to put that into our business fairly recently. Probably not as, you probably live by that for your military things. This whole idea that if a team member has an idea, they're almost afraid to bring it to the table, or they're afraid to run with it. A type of t-shirt for you maybe, or for us, it'll be a night at the club that they want to do. Oh, we want to book this artist. And historically, as a boss, old school bosses, which I don't agree with anymore, would have gone, let the manager book the artist. And if it done badly, you'd sack them. Or you'd say, that's your fault.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, look, as long as we've tried everything, as long as we've done all the marketing we're meant to do, and it's failed, we've failed together.
Yeah, exactly.
And we move on.
That's the that hippo thing that I speak about, highest paid person's opinion. And it's so difficult because what I try not to do and what I'm conscious of in a discussion or a forum, let's say it's a brand marketing meeting and we're talking about creative ideas and what we want to do for a specific go-to-market plan and a launch of a product, I won't speak first. I'm not going to walk straight in, address everybody and go, this is the idea that I have. Because everyone's just going to go, great idea. Yeah, let's do that.
Echo chamber.
Especially some of the new kids that have come in, they're not going to go, are you mad? No. This is what's currently happening. We need to do this. So you have to be conscious of that. And you have to allow them that freedom of expression and that room to take to the floor. Mm-hmm. And I'll ask people as well, what do you think about that? And they'll go, and they know and they understand. But that comes through time and through trust, because they know I'm not going to jump down at them and say, that's stupid. I'm like, fucking, that's brilliant. What an idea that is. Can we do a bit of that and maybe a little bit of that and some of this stuff as well, and it's difficult. Don't get me wrong. Some ideas are shit and you do have to say, that's a shit idea. But I would always try and get confirmation from other people as well. Trusted and verified opinions at all times, mate. But
I agree with you on that. And I'm also that guy. I do like to be the last person to comment. Because then you've taken everyone's ideas in. It is hard. It is hard. But even now, butted in. Yeah. There's a second point you say that which is quite interesting. That the throwing doesn't end until the bullseye has been struck, because to put down the darts means admitting defeat. So far, this attitude has left us in pretty good shape. So as long as you keep throwing darts, you're kind of never losing, right? But for anyone that's listening that's running a business, and you've applied this from the military, at what point do you go, right, we're not fucking getting anywhere with this. Put the fucking darts down. Let's move over to the dartboard. Do you understand what I mean? This is the hardest thing I feel in business because people are like throwing good money after bad. If something...
So that's interesting you mentioned that. You said money. So let's say darts are money. The dartboard is the business and the ideas. So they're ideas and money. Yeah, at some point, and I always say one of the things that's not kind of mentioned in there in that chapter about darts at the dartboard is you just got to keep throwing. You have to just keep throwing and hope that you don't run out of darts. There is a time where you have to be conscious of throwing a fistful of darts, money, at a dartboard. If you're throwing, the dartboard's here and the fucking arrows are landing over here, or you step up to the oche, the dartboard's there, but the oche's a mile away. Yeah. You have to have an element of understanding and saying, even if I stand here for the next 10 years throwing thousands of darts at a dartboard that is a fucking mile away, I'm not going to hit anything. That's just willful blindness. That's stupidity. Mm-hmm. So you have to take that into consideration. And also when it is money, how many can you throw? And how precise you need to be. Can I throw a fistful? Well, that's stupid. Maybe I need to take one arrow, step up, line stuff up, make sure the dartboard is in striking distance and that I can actually throw. And I understand what I'm aiming for and where I'm aiming towards. And to hit the dartboard's fine, and we've done that loads of times with ideas and things where we know we've got a good idea. We have the arrow ready and the money and the idea and we'll throw and fuck, it's on the dartboard and it's not quite right, but it feels right. I think if I've got another 5 darts, I can hit a bullseye here. It's getting closer. Another couple, boom, and you have to make that decision. Now, if you go on to 20 darts later and you're going, you have to look at, the darts don't get a vote. They're giving you feedback. They're telling you real world what the fuck's going on. And this is what we used to do for sniping. We used to say that analogy quite a lot. The bullet doesn't get a vote. So if I'm aiming at something and I put all my fucking, long range shooting, precision shooting, I do all my stuff and put all my clicks in, all this taking the wind into consideration, I send a round down to target, and I'm looking at the target, if the bullet doesn't hit it, I can't go, wow, the bullet's wrong. It's like, no. The bullet's telling you what's going on at the target. You need to adjust. And if you don't fucking adjust, then that's stupid. You wouldn't just then automatically go, I've missed the target, fuck it, I'm just going to do the same thing again. Oh, it's missed again, same place. Missed again, same place. Now I have to go, shit, I need to adjust here. I need to adjust. And also, I might run out of bullets. I might run out of darts.
That analogy, when you explain it as a sniper, works perfectly. I just feel it's one of the biggest mistakes in business. I've been there myself where I think, it'll be all right, or it's your ego. You're not accepting defeat.
Yeah. But it's telling you what's happening. Yeah. But some people at times will go, no. And as people will be stood watching you as well, watching you throw the darts going, bro,
you need to come out to see, don't you, sometimes?
What are you doing? You're not going to hit that fucking bullseye. You need to reframe and reanalyze what you're throwing and why and how and everything else that we just spoke about.
You spoke about, a lot of people probably already know that you were awarded the CGC medal in 2013. I can't actually say that first word.
Conspicuous.
Gallantry Cross.
Yeah.
You spoke about in a book, page 57, line 2. It was page 57. You spoke about saying, kind of having to sell those medals towards the early formation of, to put towards ThruDark and kind of divorce and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, that's an extremely tough thing to do. But now that the business is a bit more successful, do you ever feel like you want to buy those medals back in physical form?
There's so much to speak about here as well. I could, if I wanted to, and I potentially might do. So let's break everything down here, because that's a huge decision that I made, and one that I toiled with over and over in my mind for quite some time. Now, to give context to the reason for selling my military medals, when I was leaving the military, I was going through a very difficult marriage, divorce, breakup, and a financial settlement that's attached to a divorce. And they're probably one of the hardest things you do, for people that are listening that have gone through that process and divorce, and especially when my eldest son Lucas is involved and with his mum, and that for me was one of the biggest things that really played on my mind. It was the only thing I'd really, really failed at, that I'd tried and given a go at. We were together 13 years and married for 7, and really young age though. So we both changed, and I changed. I joined the military, and anyway, the marriage broke down, and at the time, I was under an immense amount of pressure and stress. We talk about spinning plates, and that was probably one of the most difficult times of my life, was leaving the military, letting go of something I knew and understood very well, that paid me well, that would give me that foundation and that reassurance of income, to then take the risk to leave into something that was unknown, taking that leap of faith into business with Louis, but being confident about what we were doing, going through a divorce at that time as well, not being sure where I was going to live, all of this stuff. I've been through some fucking shit times, living out the back of a car, living out of Louis' car, sleeping on people's sofas, all this stuff that people don't see or understand to make. But what I'm trying to say is all these things and pressures form your decision-making process. Now, I was drowning at the time. I was spinning plates, and I felt like I was treading water and spinning plates at the same fucking time. Mm-hmm. But I had to look at things objectively, but understanding the why, the mission. What's the fucking mission? I need to leave the military. I need to set up ThruDark, but I also need to make sure that financially, they're looked after, because they deserve it. Mm-hmm. And also myself, that I can fucking feed myself, because there's times when I was fucking tight, and Louis helping me out financially, and, can I borrow a bit of money? And, then you go through that pride thing as well. And that's when you really find out who your friends are, and you lean into people, when you really when you're in a shit place. And I was. But part of the divorce was the financial settlement. And what I wanted to do was have a clean financial break. Now, I never thought about selling my medals, but the medal was brought into the financial settlement by my ex-wife and her solicitors.
As a value?
Yeah, it's a value. It's like a piece of art. It's like a Rolex watch, So what do you have? What do you own? You've got all this, no assets, no money in the bank, 'cause I'm fucking skint. And I've spent, everything that I have on this fucking divorce and going through all the solicitors' fees and everything else. And, but this was brought in, and it was valuable. And they saw it as a valuable asset that belonged to me, that I could potentially sell, that they could. So within the letter of the law, they were entitled to that. So now I knew that and understood that. As much as I cursed about that decision or thought that it was immorally wrong, it was a fact that I had to deal with. So at that point, the decision was almost taken out of my hands. Right, what do I want to do? They couldn't force me to sell the medal. But at the same time,
they wanted half the value of it.
Well, they couldn't force me to do it. But I also needed the fucking money at the time. And what that would, by selling the medal, what it would allow me to do far outweighed the idea of holding on to something material, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's powerful.
So I reframed it. If I could sell the medals, what that would do, it would pay the mortgage off for the house that I had with my ex-wife, so they're financially secure and set for their future. It puts a guaranteed roof over my eldest son's head. That's how I compartmentalized it in my head, and that made sense to me, and they were deserving of that. It paid her debts off, gave her a car, so they're financially set and secure. So I feel good about that. Mm-hmm. I actually, as much as at the time you might think, things were said and et cetera, but listen, that's the heat of the moment, not from, myself, but I'd kind of in my head thought, let's think about this rationally and not emotionally. It makes sense. Pay everything off, pay my debts off, give me a clean slate. I now have a clean financial break. They're looked after financially. I've cleared my debts. I have some money in the bank, and it also gives me an amount to put into ThruDark. So there's a saying.
I have a fucking value, that medal.
Yeah, there's a saying which resonates with me, and it's drowning sailors don't hold on to gold bars.
I read that in the books. Heavy.
So for me, that's what when I stepped back, I was like, I'm drowning, and I've got this fucking big gold bar. What do I do? Do I want to drown? Am I prepared? Is it a hill I'm prepared to die on? Am I prepared to drown? So it made sense to me. And actually looking back at it now, that enabled everything positively to move forward in the right direction for me. But to answer your question at the end, if I'm in a financial position in the future that would allow me to buy that back, I would. I probably would. Yeah.
I hear you. And you said something in the book that the memories and the achievement are what make you, not the physical form of the medal.
I'm not value orientated in terms of material. A watch is a watch. A car's a fucking car. It's a bit of metal.
Yeah.
The value, you're exactly right, is in the achievement and why I was awarded that medal for the specific reasons.
It's powerful, that, mate. Maybe one day you'll have it back framed on the wall. There's a concept you refer to in a book called red cell analysis. I loved how you applied that, like the systems and processes you learnt in the military to ThruDark. You sort of break down, firstly, okay, in short, explain what red cell analysis is for anyone that's listening.
So red cell analysis
before I read a whole chapter of your book out.
Please don't. In its simplest form, simply. If we went into a country and we had a safe house or a building that we would have to occupy, we would go around that building and we would look for areas of weakness and vulnerability. That's everything from external, how do we bolster the security of that position, and then internally, how do we make it safer through different things and cages and double bolting doors and windows and have escape routes and plans and firefighting equipment, more spare ammunition, weapons, radio, comms, first aid equipment, to name but a few. That's red cell analysis is going in and looking at areas of vulnerability and weakness within.
Like a SWOT?
Yeah. Yes, but you have physical and then you have digital as well. So a SWOT analysis is strengths and weaknesses. We do that in business as well. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And all that kind of stuff. But it's like that. But the red cell analysis is from a military context and perspective.
Now, there's a funny story here that I want you to explain. You and Louis, when you left the military, you were approached by a tech company, right?
Yeah.
To stress test their company.
Yeah.
Tell me that story.
So that was a penetration test in terms of how easy is it to actually get into our headquarters building.
Okay, so it's a physical.
It's a physical. Mm-hmm. And then off the back of that, how easy is it to digitally see the shortfalls that are within the business, without going into too much detail. So that was a case then of, okay, you give us a week and we're pretty confident.
And they pay you for this, right?
Yeah, they do. And they don't tell, the only people that they tell are that obviously the owners of the business.
So nobody knows, the security guy.
The staff, the security, nobody knows. And then, off we set doing our thing in terms of the analysis of where people are, how they move around, befriending people, where do they drink their coffees, where do they go for lunch, what are they wearing, what are their gait, what's their passes. Most people, you don't realise, they leave work and they'll have their fucking passes on them, they'll have their scanned stuff, their QR, their ID cards. Okay, photo that, what does it look like? Sit next to them. There's certain things that you can do digitally as well, sat next to people in cafes, in terms of information gathering. And we would do all this process over a week, and then
Louis did
at the end of the week, and other people as well. And then at the end of that,
I thought you two were a bit biff on digital stuff.
Thankfully there's people that are better than us from the tech side. But then you do all this sort of stuff, and then I won't name the company because I can't, but it's a huge, huge company. I'll tell you after. And then we went in and just sort of showed them their vulnerabilities, which is a bit of an eye opener.
You infiltrated, didn't you? Yeah. You managed to get in.
Yeah. But it's easy. It's so easy,
Were they surprised?
Yeah.
They genuinely felt they were. They genuinely felt they were.
Yeah, they were. But it makes them then, because people become complacent and things don't change, they don't evolve. It then makes them go, right. And then at the end of that, we would write a recommendation report to the analysis that we had, and it would be, this is what you need to do, or this is what we recommend you should do to make your company safer, and this is what you need to tell your staff, because it starts bottom up. You have to inform everybody about what they have to do, because all it takes is 1-2 people to let things slip. And there's that thing in the military and the Navy, like loose lips sink ships. Mm-hmm. And it is that thing where all it takes is one person at the lowest level on a battleship that rings home, tells them where they are, gives away a location, or imagine a submarine, a clandestine, and tells, somebody will slip up, and it's human nature, and it's usually a human error, which can be catastrophic.
It's interesting that, because
we did that in business with ThruDark as well, in terms of what we did in terms of our setup and security and all that.
There's a passage in the book, you talk about when you got your insurers in to check how secure your building was, and they were fucking shocked how like a Fort Knox it was.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need things in life, experiences to make you check that. When we had the burglary at our house, I thought I had quite a good security system. Yeah. Evidently I didn't, and I've fucking upgraded it now to a very good system.
Yeah.
But obviously you get
usually it takes something to happen. And I was literally speaking to a friend who's been in the military at the weekend. He had his house robbed, his garage, a couple of motorbikes in there. Same thing. And I said, "Bro, did you not have this? And he was like, well, I do now. And but it's that thing, isn't it? That we unfortunately we always wait till something happens, and it's about being not reactive to stuff. It's about proactive and understanding what that means. And a lot of times, like my car, I've got a huge medical kit in the back of my car. It's gathering dust, thankfully. But the time you need it, you want it to be there, and you need to understand how to use it. Most people don't know how to change the fucking tire on their car. They don't even know if they have a spare tire in their car. Yeah. They don't know if something happens. If you injure yourself, can you look after yourself? If your kid's choking, can you look after your kid and stop them from choking? These are quite basic things that, because everybody's busy, they don't really look at. They don't say, maybe I should upskill myself here. It's a life-saving skill.
We're not taught them though. No. I'm quite similar to you in a sense that, like,
but that's not an excuse, is it?
No, I know. In the car, in the house, there's certain things, and I even say to my missus, look, if this was happening to me, do you know what you need to be doing? And she's like, no, I'm not. This is not me having a go at you. Like, if I'm choking, if this happens to me. Because if it happens to you, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But I'm worried that me and you live together. If it happens to me,
maybe she does know.
Do you know what to do? If I'm ever choking, do you know that you need to do this and then this? Yeah. If I can't breathe, you know how to do CPR. There should be basic things I think we should be taught in our education system.
Exactly. I was just about to say, where do you think they should teach that?
School.
Yeah.
Life lessons.
Fucking. The world doesn't need more shit mathematicians. It needs real world application of skill through medical intervention.
How to stop like a serious bleed. That should be fucking basic. Yeah. Like the applying pressure thing, if not tourniqueting. This sort of stuff, everyone should know. Yeah. Because when you're out with your mates and God forbid something happens,
you can say
you got that. You'd know the golden hour, they call it. I did a first aid course with the RNLI. There's a golden hour of when an incident happens.
That's the biggest thing. Stop bleed. But everybody, and look,
most people run the other way when there's blood.
Stabbings and all these things that happen in London. The majority of these people could be saved if people knew fairly basic, next level step up trauma
and
care.
Had the equipment.
And trauma care. There's a lot of things that you can do by things that you can carry on you, but also basic applying of pressure, rather than just standing around and being that fucking person that runs around with their head on fire, ringing an ambulance. It's too late. They've bled out. It's like the best way to see it. Your body carries so much water and blood, and it's like a bath. If you plug a fucking hole in a bath, the water's going to escape. You need to stop that kind of water escaping or that blood. And it's but these are life skills, mate. Yeah, they're life skills.
We should be doing like 3 hours a week, our kids, I think, in school, learning like random life skills. One outdoorsy, one indoors. One around people, health. There's how you do anything is how you do everything. I fucking love that one.
Yeah,
I love that one. I've read that or watched that on another video somewhere else. A phrase I try and live by as well. There's the whole thing about doing your bed in the morning. The little jobs, eat the frog in the morning. Creating good habit loops and all that kind of stuff. And there's a bit in here where you said about hope is not a plan. You said it earlier as well, but there's a bit in the book you say it. I like this, and within the special forces or within the guys like you guys that I've spent time with, you seem to strive for perfection. However, I'm going to caveat that a little bit. They say perfection is the killer of progress. That whole thing of where you're stunned by the lights and you don't start something because it's never the right time or it's never perfect. How, if you're always striving for perfection, is there times where you say on a mission or something where you go, it's not 100% of how we'd want it to be, but we're going with it anyway?
80% of something is better than 100% of nothing, isn't it? I don't strive for perfection. And I always
It feels like that from the outside.
I always strive. Practice makes permanent for me, not perfect. So strive for permanent.
Like that.
And that's what I have in my head. I never think something's going to be perfect because nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
And you need to get that out of your fucking mind as quickly as possible. Trying to be perfect or try to, people get so bogged down in that last 10% of perfection that they miss miss the fucking opportunities that are there and are presented. And, you know, we sometimes fall foul of this in business. And an example would be, you know, creating an amazing video for a launch of a product. And because the guys are perfectionists and they're pushing something out and they love what they do, what they'll tend to do is they'll get the video ready and they'll spend another week polishing that last 5%, which to them is super important because it's a reflection of their work. And
but no one notices.
No. And I have to, guys, put a line in the sand. We're launching what you've got. Yeah, but I just want to, no. Listen. We're going, if we don't launch this now, that's an extra week of revenue that we've missed, or we might miss the fucking boat altogether. So you need to make that decision.
I'm a chronic overthinker, mate. And this is something that I try and work on because sometimes like my designer will send us a poster and I've even done a bit with Gaz like that. And I'm like, just move that here. It's like millimeters.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people say attention to detail is good, but it does become a problem.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah. But, you know, but that you do need that. You need that element of perfection in terms of striving towards making something look beautiful. If
you can within your power.
The time and the resource, and it doesn't come at the detriment to other things. So right now there's if you speak to Gaz, our creative director, and other people within the business on brand, the workload, there's so much stuff to pump out and things are happening and some things are time sensitive, but you have to make those decisions at certain times and understand that the level of priority has to be managed. You know, what's the closest crocodile? We always say this quite a lot in the business, and it's, I'm in my canoe or I'm in my little boat on the lake. What's the fucking closest crocodile? There's no point worrying about that crocodile that's on the shore, chilling out, sunbathing. What's fucking just about to jump in the boat? And, you know, that's, again, comes down to prioritization.
I like that. There's a part in there where you're talking about techniques, tactics, and procedures. Obviously, there's quite a lot in there, so I'm not going to go through them all. But there was one that stuck out to me. It was, is it pronounced Kaizen? Kaizen. And it's the Japanese concept of continual improvement.
I love Kaizen and that philosophy, and you can apply this through your life, through business, your relationships, and you should always. It's something I always revert back to as a point of reference and contact to say, what's Kaizen? It's always about trying to be better. And that doesn't mean huge steps. It's small incremental steps, constantly trying to be better and better. I joked in the gym the other day with the guys. We're training and working out, and I just sort of a throwaway comment to one of the guys. And when we train in the gym, it's always quite similar to what we usually do. But for me, what I was trying to say is it's Kaizen. Every day we get a little bit better. And we're not trying to change the way that we train drastically. What we're trying to do is, one, show up, because that's probably one of the hardest things that people have to deal with. But two, becoming better by going through the process. And a lot of times, if you can just deal with that boredom of turning up and training, before you know it, and it's that saying, isn't it? If you carry on, in 10 years, you'll be an overnight success.
Yeah.
In 10 years, ThruDark will be a huge overnight success. But we've applied Kaizen at each stage all the time, trying to be better. The details matter. Can we make that product better? How can we make it better? How easy is that? Is it worth it? You know, should we go through all this kind of analysis of what happened, you know, how we can make product and people and processes and systems, everything better all the time. It's that Kaizen philosophy and approach, not resting on your laurels and settling and thinking, we're kind of okay now. Let's just fucking ride this wave in.
It's really interesting, mate, because a lot of what you say, most business owners, operators that are listening will know. Yeah. They just don't apply it.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, we've done it. If the club's doing really well and we're having it off, it's very normal to start getting complacent in certain areas. Start looking at your spreadsheet going, okay, here's the 5 things we do to promote, but we're fucking having it off. So why don't we print half the amount of flyers now? We don't really need to do the posters anymore. We can cut the Facebook budget by half. And it's like steering a massive ship.
No.
You're flying. 6
Shit,
months later,
over there.
6 months later, you wake up and you've lost money.
You're off course. You've been drifting off course.
You're fucking way off course. Yeah. Then there's this panic of, get it back on course. Then you're throwing 3 times the resources you threw at it. Yeah. And it takes you 3 months to get back on course. Yeah. So it's just how you, like, do you still implement that all the time, that Kaizen? Do you, like, even though, like, from the outside, and I know from internally as well, that, you know, it's going really well. The business is doing well. There's growth there. You've got wicked plans coming ahead. How do you stay fucking motivated to keep trying to be better? Like not think, fuck it, we're doing all right now. I'm just going to cruise for a little bit.
I don't know that some of that is deeply embedded into the type of people that we are, and I think you need that level of approach through military. Most people that are in special forces are there because they're that type of person, and you then become successful in most things that you touch. Not all the time, but for the majority of people, you do become successful because you understand how important and how valuable that approach is. It's instant feedback. If I keep doing this and I keep trying to be better and striving to be better, never resting on my laurels, and have people around you that check you as well, that check you off and hold you accountable, then there's a lot of beauty in that.
There's a piece you talk about, like kind of the underdog advantage.
Yeah.
Which I quite like. It was very powerful. I like the mentality. Like about not fighting the big boys on their terms and being creative and disrupting a market. It's something we like doing as well.
Yeah.
When you guys were setting up ThruDark, what were you thinking to disrupt that market? Like what was your ways of going, we're going to do this to disrupt it? Or who are you looking at going, there's our biggest competitor. What can we do that's different to them? Not to take them down, but obviously the way your mind is, there's probably an element, whether you liked it or not, of kind of like, that's the enemy, like to do this A, B, C thing. This is where we're trying to go. How do we do it?
Yeah. We actually didn't look at it in terms of who do we want to take down.
Okay.
Me and Louis didn't,
there wasn't like a company in your mind where you're thinking that brand in particular.
No, there's a brand brands that we looked at for inspiration.
Got you.
And say, we really like how they do this. We like how that company does that. We like their products over there and how they market this, and across a broad spectrum of businesses, not just outdoor clothing. But what me and Louis had was our plan. And we said, right, we've got to concentrate on ourselves and understand where our strengths and weaknesses are, the SWOT analysis. But ultimately, now, near, next, where do we want to be? We want to sit in this position here. We want to have super technical outdoor clothing that is fit for purpose. And that's everything from a bespoke summit suit for climbing the highest mountains in the world, which has been proven, and people have done that in our clothing. And I've climbed, high mountains as well, and high altitude mountains. So we don't just stand stand by it. We stand in the kit as well. So we went through the process, and I'm trying to break it down very quickly, is we kind of knew where we wanted to head. We knew the type of clothing that we wanted to create. We wanted super technical outdoor clothing that looked cool as fuck in its purest form. And what do we need to do to get there? And it wasn't about, along the way, we might take out one of the competitors and take them out. It wasn't never about that. It was about, what do we want to do? Who's ThruDark? It's the analogy of the motorway. What we saw is all these other brands are on the motorway because they're like the big ship. They can't really course correct too much. They're a big lorry heading towards a destination, multiple lorries, and we saw ourselves as a bit different. We said, we're heading in that same direction in terms of the outdoor market, but fuck it, we're not traveling on the road. What we're going to do is break track. We're going to travel at the side of the motorway in a bespoke Baja style monster truck that's just ripping and blazing its own trail. And then you start getting noticed for being authentic and being credible and being genuine.
There's a real powerful message behind that. Like you find a lot of businesses fucking spend so much time, energy and resource on looking at what the other people are doing that they don't fucking follow the path. That, just keep your head down.
Keep doing
we do it in our nightclub world as well. Oh, so and so was this busy last night. So and so's doing drinks this much. Like, fuck, stop wasting energy on that.
Yeah,
just keep your nut down. Do what you're doing very well, the basics very well. And you talk about this. Do the basics, same in jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, to a high standard.
Do the basics to a high standard consistently, and you generally will tick off most things in life. And it's easier said than done. Like I still fuck up all the time, even though I know that's the method.
That's the whole part of it, isn't it? It's a point about fucking up, failing fast, fail forward. And when you're a small company, you can fail fast. You can afford to fail fast. And then you're just like, okay, course correct. What are we doing? Fucking hell, the wheels fucking falling off. Right, we know what to do. Fix it. Back on track. Let's go. But I think it's being authentic and genuine and credible to yourselves. Don't try and be like another company. It's already been done. That's what they do. Be yourself. And I think when people set up a business or leave, they have this misconception of, well, it's worked for those guys, so I'm just going to do something very similar to what they've done. And it's like, no. People will see straight fucking through that.
Yeah, there's no authenticity.
And you won't enjoy that process either, because you're forever chasing something that's not your vision or your dream. You're chasing another person's idea of what success is.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one can doubt the authenticity with you boys. Like, I remember the first time we sat down in the Hilton.
Remember? Fucking ages
you
ago.
You and Stevie Mack had rung me saying, my Ruby's going out with this military dude. Can you have a coffee with him, sort of thing?
Yeah.
You and Louis come in. I sat there with Ilka. Like, I don't know if you might have still been in then. You were like, I've got this idea of ThruDark, and you did
just
this whole
sounding
thing.
the ideas.
Yeah,
what do you think?
We had a chat about it, and I remember you guys got up and left, and me and Ilka turned to each other. We were like, we don't have a fucking clue what that is, but we want in, whatever it is. Like, it was so, like, I don't know how to describe it. The passion coming out of you guys when you were talking about what you wanted to achieve. We bought into it. And at that point, you hadn't even had a product. You didn't even have a logo. Like, it was an idea.
Sell snow to the Eskimos.
Yeah, I can. But do you know the problem with being a good salesman? You're easy to sell to because you buy into the bullshit. Easier to sell to someone that can sell. Yeah, that's what I found in my life. The armor of daily habits. You said something, compound interest of fucking up. What's the story behind that?
I think for me, No, I think we
quite like that phrase, compound interest of fucking up. Is that
failing
forward?
Yeah, it is. It's exactly that. It's about daily habits, which we've already kind of touched on. But multiple habits that you apply and layer up. You know, what's the best way to eat an elephant? You know, fucking mouthful by mouthful. You're not going to attack the whole fucking thing. You know, same with building a house brick by brick. And it's about layering these things on every day that ultimately, by the end of it, you can look back and say, fuck, that's worth doing. Because a lot of people, they look at the end goal, and then it's like running a marathon. You know, if you've never ran before, and the idea of running a marathon is fucking, you can't think about that. In your mind, that's too difficult. And you think, I'm a shit runner, I don't like it.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
It's overwhelming. But if you go, well, when is it? Let's stop, get the whiteboard out. When's the marathon? Right, let's work back from that. Right now, what do you need to do? What can we do to enable mission success of completing that marathon? What's the near? Okay, what I need to do is put a training program in place that allows me to build up to that marathon distance at a time of my choosing. And then from there, daily habits, build up. But you will fuck up. There will be fuck ups along the road where you go, shit, after the first long distance run that you do, you've got blisters all over. Right, fuck. Change your footwear or tape your feet. And through that process, you understand your body and your mind better, a little bit better every day, how you want to fuel your body, how your body reacts to running long distance, how it reacts in heat, in cold, in stress, in morning, in nighttime, you know, all these kind of things that you can layer on. But at the end of it, you set yourself up for success to pass and complete that marathon. But it's a long process. And that was the same for selection with me. When I was going on selection, if I looked at the whole process of selection, it's daunting, it's overwhelming. You think, fuck, I've got to do what? All of this stuff, because you know what's coming and the phases. You don't know the detail, but you know the phases and how long it is and fucking how hard it is. But for me, I was like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about how much pain I'm going to be in at mile 18 on the marathon. What I need to do is go, what can I do today to make me better? 1% better, right? I'm going to go for a run. It's 1K today. That's not nowhere near a marathon distance, but it's 1K more than I'm about to do or was prepared to do. Next day is 2K, 3K, and you build it up. Like selection, there's times on selection where you can think week by week. Very rare. The majority of the time, you're thinking day by day.
Is that how it is?
And for a lot of the time, you're thinking fucking hour by hour, depending on how hard the task is that you're doing. And sometimes it's fucking minute by minute. Again, depending on the severity of the task at hand.
No, I get that. When we did that, did the 100K ultra thing that we did, the hike back in May, and you were messaging me through the night, getting me going, mate. I nearly fucking quit halfway through that with like an ankle injury. But that got to a point where I was thinking, right, literally kilometre by kilometre.
Yeah. Then you have to break it down in your mind.
Forget that there's like, I think at 58K, my ankle was fucked. So I was 42K left to go.
You can't think like that.
When I thought like that, I was thinking, that's when I was like messaging the group to you boys, I'm done, I'm fucked. And my ankle's like this. I thought, fuck it. You lot all sent some messages back and then took a load of painkillers. And then it was literally like, right, I just need to do 1,000 meters or 100 meters. And
can I do 100 meters?
Again,
yes, I can.
Again.
Can I do another 100? Yeah, I can. And then you break that down.
You almost trick your mind, don't you?
And in an hour, you go, oh, actually, I might make it to the next check. How far's the next check? Okay, 2K. Let's break this down. I'm going to keep walking for 20 minutes. Do you know what? I'm going to see how I feel on the hour when I get to this. 40 minutes away. Let me make it to the hour, and then I can reassess. And then you say, when I get to the hour, I'm going to reward myself by having some food or a coffee or something. And then you've got something to strive towards, a small goal.
Do you not think the concept of that's funny, though? Because it's... I don't know how to articulate this. It's in your mind that you're thinking that, but you're tricking your mind. Your mind is tricking your mind.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? So like when I did the half on Sunday with Gaz, I got to kilometre 12, whatever it was, my hammy went. And in my head, I was going, because I was just arrogant, didn't train for it, just an idiot. In my head, I was going, I'll just get to the next kilometre and then I'm going to quit that, you know. And then in my mind, I'm rationalising what I can say when I quit. When I got to that kilometre, I'm going, I reckon I could do another 5. I'll do 500 metres more and then I'm going to quit. But it's my mind that's tricking my own mind. It's not someone else telling me.
It's your chimp brain. It's your brain going.
And you complete it.
Yeah, exactly.
Before you know it, you're at the finish line, you've got your adrenaline, I sprinted the last 200 metres.
Exactly. But you have to understand what's happening there. You have to go, that's my chimp talking. That is the part of my brain that I have to allow. I have to give it space. I have to give it a voice. But you have to almost laugh at it and then come back to the logical side, the computer, and go, no. Look, you've had your moment. You're worrying. Now you're building up stress and pressure because you're worried about what people will think if you do quit, if you pull out. Yeah. Your chimp starts going, no, we just pull out of it. What are we doing? We're going to be embarrassed. Don't do it. And then
turn your social media off, hide.
Yeah, the rational part goes, okay, have the moment. Right. Logically, how can we actually get through this? So it's about breaking that down.
I like that. Right, Staz, chapter 11. And this was a part of your wedding speech, actually. You said this, and you say it quite a bit. Never above you, never below you, always beside you. This is a mantra that the Special Forces live by, right?
Yes, in some instances for certain regiments and bits and pieces, but it's something that's always kind of stuck with me, I guess. I sort of first heard it when I was in the military. It was a kind of a toast that's kind of that I would then use as a personal toast all the time, and I really love it. I like what it stands for. It's about understanding the dynamics of who you are, not being arrogant, not being egotistical, and sort of saying to people that, you know, I'm never above you, never below you. I'm here and I'm always beside you. So we are level, you know, we're together. For me, it just means so much to me. And it was a part of my wedding speech. You know, I did the speech and to Ruby, it's the last sort of thing I sort of said to her as I raised the glass. And I think that's important, to never think that you are above people, but also value yourself, that you're never below people as well. And it's about going through side by side with those important people in your life.
For sure. And like chapter 11, chapter 12, one's called that and the other one's called create community, not work. And kind of what I'm going to say probably applies to both of them, so we'll do it in one go. Like, how do you instill a culture and ethos of true teamwork in business when generally in workplaces you find some people are out for themselves, whether it's promotions, whether it's pay rises? Like, what do you guys do to create that? Because it feels very family-like at ThruDark.
You can't force culture. And a lot of these people...
That's interesting.
Yeah. People come in and say, what do you do? Like, you know, what are the systems and the things that you do that create this culture? And you can't fucking force it. You absolutely can't, because people see straight through it. And there's certain things that businesses try to do, and we do this, and every Friday we go out and we play fucking bingo or whatever, fill in the blank. And they're forcing too hard. What I think culture means for me in business is how you are day to day and how you conduct yourself from the top down. All right. And that's infectious. That becomes infectious. And as leaders, as me and Louis, what are the type of people, you know, we want to be perceived as? What do we do day to day? How are people looking at us? Because they're always looking. What are we doing day to day? Do we take the difficult decisions? Do we, you know, there's certain things that you have to do sometimes that are difficult, but you have to step up to the plate and lead and have those conversations at the right time with the right people and deliver it in the right manner. You know, we had some terrible news the other day in the business, and that's, you know, they're hard things that you have to do, and you have to step up to the plate and say, I've got this, or Louis will say, I'll fucking run with this, I'll deliver this. And for me, culture comes around, it's so hard with ThruDark. We're passionate, me and Louis, about it's our thing. ThruDark is ours. To then try and get somebody on board that is as passionate about you as you are as the business. Mm-hmm. If you find those fucking people, keep hold of them and do not let them fucking go, because they're like gold dust. When you know, most of the people that do come and work with us, you know, we've had a few people that have left for other reasons, and some people that have left come back and other stuff like that. But it's, for me, the culture, the ethos, the things that we brought across from our time in the military, you know, unity and belief and trust, all this kind of stuff that we've brought in aren't just mantras or words. It's things that we live by, that we instill and encourage within ThruDark. Giving people the opportunity to speak and to feel valued and to feel worthwhile, and they can see that their ideas come to fruition, they're listened to. It's not about having a fucking ping pong table in the corner. That's not culture. That's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Culture is about people believing in what they're doing there. You want people to swing their legs out of their bed in the morning and feel like they're passionate about what they're doing and they have purpose and they're actually having value add into the business. And don't get me, there's different scales of that, isn't there, in terms of what people do within the business. But for me, if you create something that, that people enjoy doing and they see the value, and you keep people informed as well. We're pretty informed in terms of how we communicate across departments, but also as a business. Like, most Mondays we get everybody up to the top and we inform everybody about what's happening, what we've done, what we've been doing previously, the week before, what we've got on this week, what the workload is, where we're all heading towards, and we're all doing it together and make people feel valued, because the moment somebody starts thinking, I don't really feel valued here, or I'm not enjoying it, that's time probably for those guys to leave as well. And that does happen, but you can't force it. And some people are motivated differently. Some people are motivated by position, by a name, a title. Some people are motivated by their wage or what's attached to the wage in terms of incentives and benefits and share, all this kind of stuff. But you have to sort of manage this across individual levels as well and collectively. And for us, we live and breathe the values of ThruDark as a business.
You can see it from the outside. Definitely that kind of brotherhood that you guys stand by. How do you deal with if someone isn't pulling their weight? Do you call them out on it? Because obviously there's that whole argument of being a rotten apple, right?
Yeah.
They can take you down from the inside. It's actually worse to have.
And it's hard sometimes because what generally happens with businesses, and I've had the best business course in the world, actually living through a growing business with the right people and the amount of experience that I've had access to and that I've leaned into, and for years, and still now I'm still that bloke in a room, thankfully in a room of people that are smarter than me, and I'm the guy in the what does that mean? Sorry, stop. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Can you explain that to me? And it's understanding that as well. But there are people that have been, or will be with your business from the very start, and the business evolves and grows and becomes different. Now, people should want and understand that they have to evolve and change in direct proportion in relation to the business and where it's heading. And the analogy I can probably use is a wave. When you first start out, you're kind of bodyboard, boogie, surfing, small waves. You're having a bit of fun. You're having a bit of fun at the beach. You're a kid. You're fucking catching a few little waves. And then you start going a little bit deeper into the water. And then you have to transition to a surfboard or a big paddle board. And then you're catching bigger waves. You're year 2, year 3, and you're catching bigger waves in, you're surfing, and the people that are with you at the beginning, your mates, and other people that have been helping out, and people that are in the business, some people transition to paddleboard, fine, and they're with you. Then you ditch the paddleboard, you go deeper, you start swimming with the surfboard. Now you're out at deep sea, and now you're surfing 5 foot, 6 foot waves. Now it takes skill, and it takes commitment. And what you start noticing is not everybody can fucking surf the wave. And you start recognizing their inabilities, but also their frustration that they can't surf the wave. But they have to realize that as well. And if they're honest with themselves, they will realize it. And they'll say, I'm out my depth here, literally out my depth, and I can't fucking surf this wave anymore. Now, what do? You don't go, do you know what? We'll go back down to the fucking boogie board. That's moving backwards from a business, but it's also it's not helping everybody else. Everybody else might be there saying, no, I'm fucking cool with this and I'm really enjoying the wave. Now, what do? You don't change everybody else for the one person that's struggling to surf.
Or give them special treatment.
Well, you can say to that person, go get some surf lessons, upskill yourself. And that's then their decision to do that. If they don't decide to do that, that's on them, And as heartbreaking as it is, sometimes you have to just say, listen, we're actually heading even deeper, and we're actually moving towards big wave surfing now, and that's going to get dangerous. And if you can't swim or you can't deal with those waves or that that momentum, then it's not good for you and it's not good for us. Because now we're having to look after you as well. So it's difficult, mate, and you have to make difficult decisions in business as well, and in life. It's the same with friendship groups. As you evolve as a person, and you think, what's my relationship like to drinking? you know, and you're socially and you're going around, and if you start hanging around with the wrong types of people that are your friends, but then you think this is having a net negative effect on me as a person, you have to make those difficult decisions to either say, do you know what, I'm not drinking, or remove yourself from that situation. You know, and you have to make difficult and hard decisions. And at the time you think, I don't want to do that because I'm going to lose. You feel like you might lose those friends, or you might lose out on a social situation, but you have to make those decisions. It's the same with business as well.
It is tough, yeah. I feel like you feel responsible for these people in a way, because they're relying on what you've created or what you're doing at that business to kind of feed their family, right? You know,
absolutely.
So there's an element of, I know everyone says take the emotion out of it, but it's quite hard to do that sometimes.
We're not robots.
It's quite hard to do that. And when we went first into lockdown 1 with our kind of industry as well, that was one of my biggest things that kind of gave me sleepless nights. It wasn't that we're going to lose the business. It was that
you've got people relying on you.
Across the group, there's probably 250 staff. Every single one of them are feeding their kids and their family, paying their mortgage with the wages we pay. If we can't afford to pay them the wages because we're not open, what's going to happen to them? You know, I don't know. It was a tough thing. That's probably the hardest thing I think of business. But also, that is business. People, managing expectations.
It's like being a football manager.
Yeah, that's all business is.
Being a football manager, you play in the Premier League, or you have a team of players and you're moving through the divisions. Next thing you're in the Premier League, or you know you're wanting to fight for promotion. Unfortunately, some of the players you have to let go,
capability-wise.
And if they're honest with themselves, the players will go, "I'm not at that level, but I can still play football. I can still play at a different team at this level, but I'm just not quite ready for that." Now, what do? You might develop and take a step back to then come back up, and that happens in football, doesn't it? Yeah. People come back and forward and learn, and they upskill, or they develop, or you know they take a back step to then move up into the Premier League again. But that's the managers and the coaches. They have to look out for
that's not
the success.
Problem, is it really? Yeah, to an extent.
Yeah, but you're looking at the success of the club, and it's like, listen, it's not a free fucking ride. It's not a free meal. You know, you have to look at success and what that looks like and put things in place. And you have to make difficult decisions as, you know, co-founders and leaders of a business.
Mate, I'm going to ask you something, because like what you did before your career, you probably felt you had like a real purpose. You know what you're doing in the military. How do you find true purpose as a business, besides like selling your products and that? Do you know, where do you feel that purpose is for you? I'm curious.
I think I love, and business has been fucking hard. You know, it is a completely different mission. And I think it's been, it is harder than the military. It's harder than special forces. Mentally, it's very, very draining and difficult, you know.
So funny hearing you say that.
It is.
Because most people think the other way around.
Yeah. Well, the special forces was not easy. But it's easy in so much that you know what you're doing, you know what you've signed up for, you know what kit and equipment, you've trained to a high level, you're going out on missions. It's like being a footballer, a Premier League footballer. Most footballers can't transition to being a manager. It's a completely different game. You're still involved with doing the same sort of similar stuff, but it's different. It is mentally very taxing and different to being in special forces. And for me, business was a huge learning curve, but I love learning. I love challenging myself, pushing myself to the limits. And for me, I find my passion in growing a successful business and creating amazing product that is still true to us. And I think what sets us aside and makes us different is me and Louis were so focused on what we wanted to do with ThruDark and where we wanted to drive the brand. And that comes from passion and relentless pursuit of excellence. You know, that's a terminology that we used in the special forces, relentless pursuit of excellence. And that's what we've done in ThruDark. And you have to be passionate. You have to be relentless, because you have to believe in it. If you don't believe in it, or you don't have that hope anymore, then you'll fucking drop it and ditch it. So for me, that comes through credibility and authenticity, and what we're doing right now. Again, I keep saying that, authentic and credible. You know, we have an amazing story at ThruDark, you know, and there's nobody else within our world that has left the special forces and gone into, you know, we coin, you know, from door kicking to fabric pulling. Now I get excited about fabrics and buttons and zips, but creating amazing content that inspires. We're an aspirational brand for the most part. ThruDark, I hope, from, you know, what people glean and what I can see and read, and people are, you know, are inspired by that. We're inspiring people to get out and to push beyond what they thought they were capable of. And ThruDark, for me, isn't just about technical outdoor clothing. It's about being aspirational to people. It's about saying, that's why we've branched out into the workout stuff, gym workout clothing as well, because, jiu-jitsu and all this kind of different avenues, because to climb a mountain, you have to be fit, you have to be physically fit, you have to be mentally resilient as well. It's that endeavor through adversity, that's kind of strapline for us. And that's different for everybody, isn't it? What does ThruDark mean? What does it stand for? Endeavor through adversity. We are all going to feel and face and some level of adversity in our lives. And we should welcome that. And we should understand that, this too shall pass. We'll pass through that fire. You have to get burned. You have to come out the other end, because what's the alternative? What's the alternative of not doing that? It's a life of fucking misery and shit, of wondering what could have been. And what's that other saying about, the horror is, looking back in the mirror at yourself and realizing the person that you could have been, and that you haven't fucking recognized or even realized your true potential.
And then it's too late to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. The final chapter of the book is called "You Catch More Flies with Honey Than Vinegar."
Yeah.
I like this. And you said that you'd managed to neutralize your aggressors with kindness. Now, it's a great ethos to live by, but it's often forgotten, especially in the business world. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's quite ruthless. Everyone's quite cutthroat, and they don't really gain a true level of respect. Mm-hmm. I think I've said this to you before. I might have said it somewhere. My old man used to talk to me about, he used to give me advice on respect. When I was doing loads of steroids and trying to be all big and hard, he used to say to me, "Why are you doing that, son?" I'd say, "I want people to respect me."
Yeah.
And he said, respect that comes from fear isn't loyalty. Yeah, he said, the moment you turn your back, they'll stab you. He said, you need to get respect for being a good guy. But a lot of business kind of leaders and business owners struggle with that. What advice would you give to them on that front?
Yeah, I think, again, respect is earned, isn't it? You can't just go into any setting or a business and say, well, I'm fucking Staz and this is what I used to do and respect me. It's like, no, that doesn't work. The deed is in the doing, and showing people and being kind and considerate to people as well, and communicating with people in the correct way. And you don't always get it right. You have to kind of learn and test. And one of the biggest things that I struggled with, I guess, when I left is how different the world is. Because when you're in the special forces, you're in a bubble, in this echo chamber, in this world of like-minded individuals that, be asking people to do something, you don't have to check it. It's going to be done, to their highest standards, the best of their ability, and you could rely on that, and that's the type of person that you're dealing with. You leave out in the outside world, not everybody thinks that way. Not everybody acts that way as well. So for me, that going back to you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, it isn't about manipulating people. It's not about being fake and about smiling, but actually internally thinking somebody's a dick. It's about being genuine, and also understanding that a lot of times, and I try to apply this, trying to understand something from somebody else's perspective, whether that's in a discussion or an argument or a disagreement, and it's not sitting on the fence. It's trying to legitimately and I guess it's the word I'm looking for, authentically understanding their viewpoint and their position, because if you do that, they'll respect that. If you say, "Can you explain to me what you mean and why you think that way?" And then you can say, I get it now. If you ever had an argument with, your missus or something, and they're quite emotional and you're logical and it doesn't make sense to you. So you have to say, wait a minute, explain why you think that. Okay, I get it.
Understand.
I get it. Right. I get where you're coming from. And you have to allow them that kind of time in that space, because to them it makes sense, and they don't understand it from our point of view. They're going, you're just heartless and you have no emotion and you're just thinking too logical, and the world's not logical all the time. Sometimes it is driven by emotion. So that saying was actually, I picked that up from a Navy SEAL Team 6 operator, and we were doing some security work for the NFL when we left, because when we left the service and we were setting up ThruDark, we still had to work to, feed our fucking families and earn money. And we were doing that, myself and Louis, working for a couple of good guys that we know, Street and Sunny, and NFL, NBA, all this kind of stuff in the UK and abroad as well. We did the Super Bowl, some amazing stuff.
I remember, that was sick.
He talked about going for a meeting, one of the guys, I think it was Street at the time. He was like, I'm going to go down and I'm going to brief the guys here. And imagine a multi-organization, something like the NFL is fucking huge. We were covering the Super Bowl the biggest one of the biggest sporting events in the world. And we were looking after the players, the teams, and the owners. So quite a big responsibility, but we're an outside agency. The NFL has its own security. They have their own in-state police forces and armed responses and military and advisors and their security personnel. He had to go into that room and brief them about, one, who we were, two, what we could deliver, and three, what our roles and responsibilities are. So for him to go in and say, listen, I'm not here to sort of fight your systems and your procedures, and what you already have in place is brilliant, so give them that level of assurance. This is what we've been instructed to do and brought in from the NFL to do, and this is our background. We're all ex-special forces. We'll be sort of low touch, low involvement, low signature, won't really see us. We'll be around everywhere, but this is what we're here to deliver, and this is why we're doing it. And, at the time that they moving into their world, they can feel quite threatened by us as an organization coming in. Like we've always done this, and I'm the head security for this team, and the other team saying I'm the head security for this team, and I think we should do it. Like that's all very valid, but we're instructed by the NFL, and actually this is how we would like to do things for these reasons, but with your help and input. And he said when he came back, and we were sort of waiting at the hotel, and he got everybody together for the brief, and how did you get on? He said, sometimes you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And he was saying that his approach wasn't to go in and go, he could have gone in and said, listen, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. This is who we are. This is who's brought us in. We're the fucking top of the tree. Listen to what the fuck we're telling you, and we want it to be run like this. Like, how do you think that's going to be perceived and received?
You're rubbing them up the wrong way.
Exactly.
Straight away.
So you have to have that element of understanding. And the story that I tell about that, in particular in the book, is at a checkpoint I run into in Kabul in Afghanistan. I'm on my own, and I'm traveling around the city. I've got quite a lot of autonomy, and in the back I've got my larger weapon systems, demolitions equipment that's covered by a rug, and next to me I've got my my car bag. I've got my pistol. I'm sat on my pistol, and I'm on my own. It's a soft skin vehicle. It's not armored. I'm moving around. I'm going off to do meetings at different places. At night time, the city's generally shut down and have just police checkpoints. Now, I'm on their team. I'm looking after the security and safety of the locals, of the nationals. I've got their interests at heart. I roll into a police checkpoint, and it's an angry checkpoint. It's the guys are there and they're knocking on the fucking window, get out the fucking car, and it's like, no, the last thing I want to be doing is getting out of the car, getting searched, and that will just escalate in the wrong way. So for me, it was a case of applying honey and just sort of humanizing myself, And at that point, it was, he's got the AKs. Now he's come up to the car, and there's 3 or 4 other people that are on the checkpoint. Now they're looking at how he's dealing with the situation, and he doesn't want to lose respect. So he's coming up, knocking on, get out the car. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Get out the fucking car. I can't do that. Let me talk to you. Let me explain to you who I am. Get out the fucking car. The window I've just put down slightly like this, because now he's trying to put his hand through to undo. He's trying the door handle. Obviously, it's fucking locked. Now he's trying to put his hand in. I have to grab his hand and like, look, relax, calm down. I'm on your side. I'm with you. I'm not the enemy. Let me show you my papers, and let me tell you where I'm come from and where I'm heading to. Being calm, not being aggressive, not trying to wind him up, eye contact, just being submissive, but not too submissive.
Yeah.
So having to sort of play this dance, this kind of dance with this guy, and in the back of my mind all the time thinking, I can apply vinegar, and I'm fucking sat on the vinegar right now, but that is not going to help the situation. But if he escalates and points his weapon or anything like that, or I feel like my life's in danger, then I'm going to have to shoot the guy and drive through the other people and get to the safe house. But that's not where I want to be, and that's not going to help anybody. That's just a fucking shit storm, or a storm in a teacup that will need to be fucking sorted. So at that point, it's like, here's my fucking, relax, here's my papers, here's my fucking badges, got all this stuff out. Now, you don't drive around with all this stuff out, because I don't want to highlight myself to other people, the bad guys. But give me a moment, get all my stuff out. At that point of seeing my papers and my passes and all the things that I had, he should have said, go on. But because we've got to this point of escalation, he's now going, shit, I feel like I'm backing down now to this person, and the guys are looking at me, and there's this ego thing attached to that, and he still wasn't having it. And I was like, fuck, okay. So the next stage is I'm now speaking to him in his language, and I'm trying to calm the situation down, and I'm not fluent, but I can speak, and be polite and courteous and kind. Going through all this process with him, he starts to sort of relax a little bit, and then I say, look, let me make a phone call. One phone call. Is that okay? Yeah, okay, make the phone call. And I ring the head of like the specialist police that I was working with. It's 1, 2 in the morning, so he's obviously
pissed. And
I say, Commander, I've got a situation. I'm at a checkpoint. They're not letting me through. Could you please speak to them? Pass me over. And I hold the phone at the gap, and he's coming in with the ears. And I can hear the conversation, and he's fucking face drops, clearly. And he's kind of like, shit, I'm speaking to the commander of the specialist police of the whole of Kabul. I fucked up. But, yeah, thank you. So, yeah. Thanks, Commander. Put the phone down. And I sort of, what I didn't want to do there is be a dick and say...
You didn't do it straight away, name dropping.
No, but also, following the conversation, he's probably embarrassed. I don't want to turn around to him and say, fucking knobhead. What would that get? I just sort of said, thank you for being patient. Thank you for understanding. And thanks for doing a good job. Thank you for doing your job. That's brilliant. Am I okay to now pass? Yes, you are. Fucking honey the whole way through. It's not about driving off, wheel spinning out of there and flipping him the bird, which, you're entitled to do. But that doesn't help anybody. So that talking about applying honey at different levels, and that's obviously an operational level, but in business as well, not coming in and going, or being right on a decision when you've had a discussion and going, I fucking told you I was right. It doesn't help anybody.
It's like telling your missus she's really good at turning the light off, so she gets out of bed and turn the light off.
I'll time you. You're really good at making cups of tea.
You're really good at this.
She does that to me, though.
You do it, does she?
Hang on a minute.
You fall for that shit.
Mind trick me. Yeah.
Mate, what's next for you?
What's next? I guess the book is out 2nd of November. It'll be pushed out to all those people that have already bought the book. And again, thank you. So it's going to be quite a big PR push towards the book. At the moment, the SAS Australia stuff's on.
I saw that. How's that started?
People are thinking I've timed it. I'm like, actually, it's worked out really well, but it wasn't timed. So that's really good. That's all positive. My main focus is the business in terms of professionally, but also personally is my family. It's, Ruby, it's the kids. It's about being 1% better again every day at being a dad, which is again one of the biggest challenges that I, probably one of the biggest things I beat myself up about daily is trying to be the best version for those guys because they deserve it. But that's a difficult balance to strike as well. It's a juggling act between, kids don't remember how many hours you spent at work. They just remember the hours that you weren't home or at the fucking football game or this at that. So I'm conscious of that. So that's a real big focus for me at the moment is trying to get that balance right. And I think I'm not too bad at the moment with that. But further afield, it's ThruDark, and it's about how can we still continue to grow on this trajectory, and it's exciting. It's about getting the right people in. It's about we're just about to do an office move in January again, and it's a different shift in culture and mindset. So that's the kind of the now. We've got the near for the office moves and ThruDark. The next is again just about developing myself as a person, as an individual, surrounding myself with good people, and continue to do what I do and be happy. We're fucking here for such a short time. And a lot of people sort of skip over that. And you're good at that as well. It's checking in, and it's the blanket response. There's a huge issue at the minute, with mental health, men's mental health, especially who it's affecting. And that needs looking at. And I'm not a fucking expert and it's too deep to go into today. But, it's about checking in and making sure you're doing the right things for the right reasons at all times. So that's me, mate.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Appreciate you coming in, sharing that.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity, mate.
Hard Road will take you home. Go get it, people. It's out 2nd of November.
Thank you.